Bai Lion holds a rose still wet with dew, while Jiang Fulai asks what she's hiding. The elite circles of Jiangyan are watching their every move. Leave a like and subscribe to witness the final reckoning. Update 1. The campus network was so-so, but Ding Wenyang managed to refresh the page pretty quickly. Account name: Ning Xiao. Monthly points: 0 total points. 2,717,458 following. 2 fans. 3 total points. 2,717,458, almost 3 million. How arrogant, Ding Wenyang thought. The warning bell rang, and Ding Wenyang snapped back to reality. He exclaimed awe and poked Tang Ming. So this is the legendary top student, huh? Not bad. Tang Ming shrugged. Last night he was criticized by Jiang Fulai for stretching his leg too far. Ding Wenyang. Were these people really from Xiancheng? His gaze shifted to Bai Lion next to him, who was still holding the original document in her hand. This morning was all about mechanics. The professor had already come in with a USB flash drive. Normally, Ding Wenyang was among those who listened attentively, but today he was somewhat distracted. His phone was still on the app page of Ning Xiao. Ning Xiao, aloof as he was, rarely interacted with others besides Bai Lion. Ding Wenyang came back to his senses and suddenly thought of something. He opened Ning Xiao's following list. Just 2 people. Bai Jian, pretty normal. Everyone on the app follows that arrogant top scorer, but this godsend of a picker who burst onto the scene this year. Every day there were posts about him on the app. Even Ding Wenyang had discussed with others, guessing which lab's newcomer he was. But now, Ding Wenyang opened his WeChat, found Bai Lion's name and clicked on it, seeing her WeChat name, Bai Jian. At first, when he added Bai Lion's WeChat, he thought she was a fan of the other person, but now it seems, with Ning Xiao's nearly 3 million points. Among the 3 of them, it's needless to say who is the center. Bai Lion would never score less than Ning Xiao. Considering the timing, the sudden emergence of the picker god coincided with the new students joining the app. Ding Wenyang tried to calm himself, but he wasn't very calm at all. At noon, while taking advantage of Bai Lion's meal card for lunch, Ding Wenyang couldn't help but observe Bai Lion and Ning Xiao, especially Bai Lion. Bro, are you secretly in love with both of them? You're always looking. Tang Ming sat next to Ding Wenyang with his legs crossed, warning him. It's fine if you have a crush on Ning Xiao, but don't you dare have any ideas about Sister Lion. Ding Wenyang. What exactly are you thinking? Oh, just a heads up. Tang Ming shrugged. There are too many people expressing their love for Sister Lion on the confession wall every day. Even after National Day, the buzz around Bai Lion at school did not cool down. The BGM, released online by the Physics Academy's Student Council, was repeatedly analyzed by netizens. It had a style similar to that of Yan Lu's go-to composer, Jian, and the name was simply Jian. In the last few days, it had garnered a little fame, and it became a choice BGM for many video edits. It had been uploaded to various music app platforms. When Bai Lion returned to her dorm in the evening, the other 3 roommates had already finished their washing up, with Zun Kaiyan sitting in her spot reading. Yu Simin was on the balcony on the phone with someone from the association. She was part of the student union's external relations department, had joined the College Students' Entrepreneurship Association, and was now also involved in club activities, as busy as Bai Lion. Only Kong Wei seemed to be the most typical college student among those in the dorm. As soon as Bai Lion came back, she put down her tablet, let her legs down off the bed, and got up to walk over to Bai Lion, alien. What's up? Bai Lion placed her book on the desk, opened the wardrobe to get a towel and clothes to shower. Do you want to create a Weibo account or a video account? Kong Wei asked her. So many people are looking for you online, you know. Your popularity is comparable to that of a second-tier celebrity now. No, I won't. Bai Lion headed to the bathroom, explaining gently to Kong Wei. I don't have the time. All right then. Kong Wei felt it was a bit of a pity. Another person in her place might have already signed with a live streaming company by now. She followed Bai Lion towards the bathroom. Also, about that BGM you sent to Sister Yi, a lot of people online are saying it's very similar to the style of Yan Lu's main composer. Right. Bai Lion stopped at the bathroom door, leaning lazily against the doorframe, waiting for her to finish. Then she calmly lifted the bath towel in her hand, her delicate brows and eyes raised playfully. "I'm going to take a shower. Do you want to come in together?" Kong Wei blushed slightly and took a step back. Bai Lion closed the door to shower. Behind her, the phone Bai Lion left on the desk rang. It was a WeChat voice message. Kong Wei glanced over, and it was a WeChat call from someone named Lance. And looking at the profile picture, it seemed to be a foreigner. Foreigners often use their own photos as profile pictures. Bai Lion came out after her shower, wearing pajamas and drying her hair with a towel. Wei sat back in his chair and reminded her, "Just now, a Lance sent you a WeChat voice message." Bai Lion looked down, picked up her phone, and walked to the balcony to call Lance back. On the other end of the phone, Lance, still wearing the dark blue robe Jiu Yinghui made for him, nodded at the welcoming officials and then took out his phone, his Chinese as awkward as ever. "Hi, Bai, I've arrived. I'm going to look for Nai." Lance had a summit in the middle of the month. "I'm at school." Bai Lion leaned against the balcony, slowly wiping her hair. "Are you looking for my grandpa?" "Exactly." Bai Lion hung up the phone and sent the address of Shanghai apartment to Lance. After thinking it over, she also sent a WeChat message to Jiu Yinghui, telling him that Lance would be visiting that evening. Friday. In the private residential area of Jiangjing, the cemetery. A shower had just passed, and it was nearly autumn, the sky as if washed clean. This was a joint tomb. The woman bent down to place the chrysanthemum she held in her hand, then took a handkerchief to wipe the photo of the woman on the tombstone, mumbling to herself for a while before stepping down the stairs. At the bottom of the stairs, Jiang Fulai was wearing a black trench coat, one hand in his pocket, the coat making his figure look extremely slender. His brows and eyes as clear as the rain-washed sky, deep, cold, and serene. He didn't look friendly, and his presence was strong. Ming Dingheng held a long-handled black umbrella, standing a meter away. "I've heard from Yan," said Gao Shu, dressed in a cheongsam, the deputy head of the National Theater, holding a high position, having recently gone abroad with the theater for international exchanges and having just returned home. She exuded a graceful and elegant air. "I didn't bring anything back as gifts, so I bought her a hairpin, but I don't know if she'll like it." She wasn't very tall, but had a gentle demeanor. She had seen the photos sent by Gao Yan. Walking down the stairs with her, Jiang Fulai's voice was cool and clear. "You should change the gift." He didn't explain why. Gao Shu was slightly surprised. She glanced at Jiang Fulai and after a long pause smiled. "All right, I'll discuss it with Yan again. But when do you plan to take me to meet her?" "She's busy." Jiang Fulai stood tall and straight, his features like jade. He was always concise, no matter who it was. The two walked down a few paths and reached the old Jiang family mansion. The Jiang family estate was too big, and Gao Shu hadn't quite figured out which way to go, so she left with Jiang Fulai. Outside the door, the two's cars were parked. Jiang Fulai's black car was also parked quietly, with Jiang a G6 starting its license plate. Gao Shu's car had the license plate of Jiang a 9. Ming Dingheng, holding the car keys, opened the rear door of the car, and from Gao Yan's car, a young man and woman got out. The girl, with a clear and beautiful face, politely greeted Gao Shu. "Aunt Gao." "Shu," Gao Shu smiled at her. "You and Xiaoju wait for a moment, I'll be right there." Jiang Fulai didn't greet the others, giving only a slight nod to Gao Shu before bending over to get into his car, his black trench coat hem wrapped in a layer of cold frost. Gao Shu wasn't surprised because she was his aunt, and his politeness to her was already quite adequate. The black car drove off, and at the other car, the driver lowered the window. "Mom." "How did you explain it to Shu?" Gao Shu got into the back seat, looking at Lu Jiu in the driver's seat. "Does your teacher have time today? Mom wants to invite him for a meal." Gao Shu didn't delve into the scientific research field like the Gao family, and her son Lu Jiu was also in the theater, and at the same time studying the Guzheng. Leng Xiu, sitting in the passenger seat, explained to Gao Shu, "Auntie, my teacher is not available today, he seems to be going to have fish soup." "Fish soup?" Gao Shu didn't quite understand for a moment. Had there been some delicious private kitchen in Jiangjing this year that had become as famous as Kingston Building's desserts? The car drove off. Soon they were at a stoplight, and as the Gao family lived in Xinjiang district, Gao Shu glanced at Jiang Fulai's car, which was heading toward Jiangjing University Avenue to Chang'an district. At the Mu family branch, Jai Shaojun planned to head to Shanghai apartment as soon as his workday ended. Shen Qing had gone earlier that morning. Mu Yining and Dong Xiaobai had just come here to check on the business. Seeing Jai Shaojun, they stopped to chat for a bit. President Su's private fund were planning to invest 80 million, Shaojun. You go and communicate with him. After the last National Day, the Mu family and Su family had started cooperating gradually. Su En had a good eye. His private fund could not only find financiers, but also find people for post-investment, backed by the Federation of Industry and Commerce and the Chen family tree. Okay, Jai Shaojun carried his briefcase, looking down at the time. Seeing his hurried actions, Mu Yining was struck with a thought. Going to Shanghai? Yes, Jai Shaojun nodded, speaking with Mu Yining. My dad and old Jian went fishing, so there's fresh fish soup and fish head hot pot. Do you want to come? Old Jian. This seemed to be a new person. Mu Yining felt a bit of regret and shook her head. I need to go to the state guest house. Say hello to my great uncle and the others for me. Several researchers from MTR had arrived, and she, along with the butler, planned to go ahead and make reservations with them. Dong Xiaobai wasn't very fond of fish head hot pot either. I'll go to the state guest house with Yining. Jai Shaojun nodded, still with Xiaoji driving him. It was rush hour in Jiangjing and traffic was jammed, but Xiaoji was patient and explained the situation in the car. The old master is in poor health, and Miss intends to take advantage of this medical conference to contact doctors abroad. MTR has many special medications, so she couldn't come. However, with this conference inviting people from families like MTR, there would be many, and Mu Yining might not be able to secure a reservation. Is he very unwell? Jai Shaojun fell silent for a moment, remembering that the old master was a little younger than Jai Heng. Xiaoji shook his head. Harboring long-term pent-up feelings could only deteriorate one's health, couldn't it? Passing by a small supermarket, Jai Shaojun had Xiaoji park the car and bought a bottle of soy sauce. Upon arriving at Shanghai apartment, Jai Shaojun thought of Mu Xiangguang and Jai Heng's issues, looking somewhat silent. Xiaoji followed him, and the door to 103 was closed. Xiaoji pressed the doorbell. The door was quickly opened by an old man with bright blue eyes and dressed in a sunflower-patterned shirt. His gaze landed on Jai Shaojun, and he brightened. How come you've come back? Where's the soy sauce? It had been a while since they met. How come Mr. Lance's Chinese had regressed? Jai Shaojun carried the soy sauce in, and the voice of Director Chen from the kitchen promptly came through, instructing Jai Shaojun to quickly bring him the soy sauce. Lance wasn't familiar with Chinese cuisine, so he immediately went to watch Dean Jian and Jai Heng play chess. It wasn't the elegant game of Go they were playing, but the more common 5-in-a-row chess. The two were evenly matched, and after covering most of the board in 5-in-a-row chess, a victor had yet to be decided. Xiaoji, not acquainted with Dean Jian and Lance and seeing them for the first time, recognized the voice of Director Chen cooking in the kitchen. He cautiously entered, greeted Jai Heng, and then left. As he walked out, passing by the door, he noticed 2 suit jackets hanging on a wooden coat rack. Next to it was a blue guest pass. Xiaoji gently closed the door behind him, and just before it shut, he saw the line of words at the top of the blue guest pass, and the emblem, X4 Annual Global Medical Summit. The door closed, and Xiaoji, standing outside, suddenly realized. Wasn't this the medical summit that was particularly popular in Jiangjing recently? This year, the summit was held in Jiangjing, so since the National Day holiday, Jiangjing had attracted a large number of visitors. The medical summit was a gathering of the elite, and many patients' relatives took this opportunity to seek appointments. Neither the Jai family nor the Mu family had anyone in medicine, which was a bit odd. As he walked out, just exiting building number 5, he saw Su En carrying 2 jars of alcohol, not the whiskey loved by top-end clubs, but 2 jars of aged wine wrapped in red cloth. Knowing Su En was this year's new face of affluence in Ning Xiao district, Xiaoji stepped aside. President Su. Su En had set up a private equity fund. Mu Yining herself had thrown in 80 million to join their game, not much, but still indicating her stance. Su En was originally from the hotel and catering business, and this time starting a private equity, despite his familiarity with Director Chen, faced many internal skeptics. Mu Yining was currently the highest investor. The name of the fund was quite interesting, Little Grape, a small fund stock that had just started to be listed. Su En greeted Xiaoji amiably. Jiang University, today was still the bi-weekly literature presentation. Giving the presentation was still by Lion, but this time, the main body of the literature review was written by Ning Xiao and Ding Wenyang, not achieving an A but getting a B+, which was enough to excite them as their best expectation was only a B. Each Tengfeng class's literature presentation was public, not restricting students from other majors to observe. Today, there were even more onlookers than last time, with seats filled with students from other majors. At 8:30 p.m., the presentation ended, and Bai Lion left with her group. On the road to the left outside the lecture hall, Jiang Fulai had been waiting there for 10 minutes, with the western gate of the university closer to Shanghai apartment. He hadn't driven, instead walking over. The evening brought another sprinkling of autumn rain, moistening the air. Grass and trees along the path were covered in droplets, and the pavement was still damp, occasionally with a small puddle reflecting the sheen of the streetlights. The atmosphere of the school was always serene and harmonious. Jiang Fulai stood lazily by the roadside, his gaze fixed on the distant gate, about to take out his phone when a group of students burst through the gates. He straightened up slightly, and soon Bai Lion came into view. The weather had gotten cooler, and today she wore a beige sweatshirt that was somewhat long. Its collar featured 2 red decorative buttons, and the cuffs were spliced with a band of red split embroidery. The hem of the sweatshirt was irregularly stitched, draping lazily, perfectly highlighting her casual and gentle temperament. Many female students had taken a liking to this sweatshirt. While chatting, they asked for the link to the sweatshirt. Bai Lion then paused and patiently explained to them, looking down at her mouse, that it was a custom modification by her grandfather, without a link to buy. Fulai waited patiently not far away, the girl under the lamp looking unbelievably pretty and gentle. As people came and went along the road in front of the lecture hall, her silhouette was reflected by the light behind her. Tang Ming and Ning Xiao didn't dare walk with Bai Lion at this time, so they took another route towards the cafeteria with Ding Wenyang and others. It's a bit cold today, are you just wearing that? Once Bai Lion approached, Jiang Fulai took her computer in one hand and with the other gently took her right hand, his fingers leisurely weaving through hers to hold tightly. I'm not cold. He was wearing an extra coat, and his fingertips were even cooler than hers. Bai Lion turned to him and said at an unhurried pace, You should dress warmer, young Master Jiang. The cold's going around. Be careful. Jiang Fulai felt a bit gloomy and changed the subject. My auntie is back. Jian too last time he mentioned that he only had one relative, which was his aunt. Bai Lion, Ed, still waiting for what he'd say next, but Jiang Fulai didn't continue speaking. He just gave Bai Lion a conclusion. Just letting you know, everyone else doesn't matter. Young Master Jiang, the unique ruler of the Jiang family, never used to take other people into consideration in his schedule, mentioning them only to change the subject. After all, even the current second-in-command, Jiang Ziju, hadn't met Bai Lion in person yet. The two of them walked all the way to Shanghai apartment. The street lights weren't on, and there were many people outside at this hour. A few recognized Bai Lion, but because of the intimidating man by her side, they didn't dare to strike up a conversation with her. It would have taken courage to even glance his way. The two made their way back to 303, where Ning Xiao and Tang Ming had already returned and were looking at Zhang Shai's papers. Pu Xiaohen was down in 103. Bai Lion went to 103 to get the fish soup Shen Qing had left for them. Jiang Fulai pushed open the door of the study, set down Bai Lion's laptop, and helped her print out the documents. The printer buzzed away, and he felt oddly at peace, as though time had stood still, while looking at the door. 103. By the time Bai Lion came down, Director Lance and Chief Chen were playing mahjong with Jai Heng in the lobby downstairs. Su En and Jai Shaojun stood behind Lance, advising him on how to play mahjong. This group of people was smoking. Although the glass door of the courtyard was open, the scent of smoke was still heavy. Shen Qing brought out a bowl of soup for Bai Lion and urged her to go up quickly. Director Lance put down his cigarette. He was rarely this leisurely, and when he saw Bai Lion, he nodded. "The day after tomorrow at 6 in the evening, I'll have old Hu come to pick you up." He was talking about the music exchange event. Bai Lion, who was already standing at the door, heard him and made an okay gesture in response. Pu Ziohen, who had been asking Su En questions, saw Bai Lion coming back and went upstairs with her. After the two went up, Su En finally had the chance to chat with Jai Shaojun. "I heard that Chairman Mu is going to help you and Mu Lan with a ceremonial return to the clan." Jai Mulin was still recovering. She had bled a lot, and her body was not in good shape. The Mu family had yet to inform Jai Mulin of the plans, but based on Su En's and Jai Shaojun's understanding of her, she would definitely agree to hold the ceremony. Speaking of which, Su En was surprised to find out that Jai Mulin was a member of the Mu family. Although the Mu family had fallen on hard times, a skinny camel was still bigger than a horse, and their centuries of family heritage were something to be envied, a lineage almost comparable to the direct line of the Su family, a family of true noble standing. "Play the Two of Bamboos." Jai Shaojun stood behind Lance and directed him to play the Two of Bamboos. Then he responded to Su En. "Our household registration has all been moved there, and Aliens is still with my dad. She's not moving it. When will you contact my cousin and move Mu Lan's registration too?" Bai Lion's registration was with Jai Heng's lonely household registration. Old Mrs. Su and Mu Yining were both very envious, but neither had dared to make a move. As for Jai Mulin, everyone present knew her well. She never concealed her own self-interest. That household registration was probably something nobody would want to move, except for Jai Mulin. "Is there a set time?" Su En, upon hearing Jai Shaojun's words, was also full of wonder. Who would have thought that the Jai family from Xiangcheng would turn out to be descendants of the Mu family from Jiangjing? The news was bound to cause excitement in Jiangjing. Su En was pondering this when he began to wonder about the Bai family from Baikeng and what they might think of this revelation. Jai Shaojun was unhurried in his reply. "End of the month." Originally set for the beginning of the month, because of Jai Mulin's situation, the Mu family had postponed the ceremony to give Jai Mulin time to recover. Jiang Fulai had just finished printing when Bai Lion came up from downstairs. Pu Ziohen was excitedly discussing the little grape incident with Tang Ming. Jiang Fulai took an extra look at Pu Ziohen. Pu Ziohen also had a good grasp on her stance toward young Master Jiang, and she began to explain the little grape fund incident to Jiang Fulai in a lower voice. She didn't study finance and had just been inquiring about private funds from Su En downstairs. "Little grape?" Jiang Fulai leaned back elegantly against the sofa, his distinct knuckles resting on the armrest, his posture relaxed and graceful as he watched Bai Lion sitting at the living room table, picking up a pen to write down answers for Zhang Shai's. He stood upright and made his way downstairs with poise and elegance. Private funds all have thresholds. Once the Little Grape Fund was launched, some big players adopted a wait-and-see attitude, while others were already looking for ways to get involved. The Yin family was no exception. On a weekend, Song Min went back to the Yin family to discuss the matter with Mr. Yin. Meanwhile, Bai Shaoqi and Mrs. Song were discussing the music exchange event. "Professor Jia is taking you to the music exchange event." It was no surprise to Madame Song that Professor Jia valued Bai Shaoqi so highly, given that the Bai family and Song family had poured quite a bit of money into his support. Such large-scale music exchange events were filled with people from the inner circle, so naturally, Madame Song wouldn't miss it. After their chat, Song Min also finished discussing private equity matters with President Yin. Once Song Min and Bai Shaoqi went upstairs, President Yin turned to Madame Song, and upon hearing about the music exchange event, he couldn't help but speak up. "You haven't been in touch with this Dean Jian. I heard the private equity is somewhat related to the Chen family. He should know some inside information." "No," Madame Song shook her head. "Forget it, Dean Jian isn't so easy to approach." Having lived in Jiangjing for so long, she was well aware of the local dynamics. "Indeed," President Yin nodded. Sunday, Jiangjing's large music exchange event. There were still 2 days left until the medical summit concluded, and now there was the music exchange event. The past month in Jiangjing had been truly lively. 6:30. Source, updated on Nye 0 new letter 1E50. Letter 1D0 for Omicron, Lao Hu's car, stopped at the site of Jiangjing music exchange event. Bai Lion got out of the car, took her phone and the invitation Lao Hu had given her, and entered while talking to Sister Xin on the phone. Sister Xin was asking her if she had time, as Meiyi was in Jiangjing during this period, and together with Wan Qiushan, they wanted to invite her to dinner. Bai Lion handed her invitation to the hostess at the entrance in a calm and unhurried manner and followed her through the gates. "I'm quite busy with classes. I might only have time in the evening." A woman happened to come out of the door, and Bai Lion stepped aside to make way. The other's gaze fell on her. Bai Lion glanced down. It was a woman in a black cheongsam with golden flowers, her facial features refined and her bearing quite graceful. When the woman saw Bai Lion's gaze, she smiled softly and nodded at her. Bai Lion slightly nodded back at the woman, and then they passed by each other. After Bai Lion entered outside, Gao Shu hadn't left yet. Her gaze followed Bai Lion's retreating figure. Bai Lion's face was so recognizable that even from just a photo, Gao Shu could identify her. Compared to a photograph, the real person was naturally more animated. The grace in her every gesture, which was rare even among those who had studied opera professionally. Gao Shu stood at the entrance, contemplating. The opportunity Gao Yan mentioned to share the stage together was not impossible. It wasn't until Lu Jiu and his secretary arrived that they interrupted her thoughts. Secretary Zhu inquired, "Vice President, what did Dean Jian say?" "He said he's too old to take on such a big responsibility." Speaking of serious matters, Gao Shu also shook her head and withdrew her gaze, sighing, "I couldn't persuade him." Blossoms on the Tree was a new play launched by the old dean of the Drama Institute, and the main theme music had not been settled yet. This matter was very important for Gao Shu. With a promotion on the horizon, the issue wasn't a huge one, but it wasn't minor either. Another vice president was eyeing the position, waiting to see who could handle it better. "The teacher hasn't composed any music in recent years." Lu Jiu stood aside, speaking in defense of the teacher. "Truly, he has no more energy for it." "I was just asking." Gao Shu turned her head and asked Zuna, "What did Master Xiu say?" She was referring to Xiu Qingyu, the master of classical music composition. Many dramas, and even those ancient-style epic TV series produced by the national station, were composed by him. "Master Xiu has some time lately." Secretary Zhu opened her notebook. "I've booked a table at the Kingson building for 8 o'clock tonight. Will you go straight there?" "Let's go," Gao Shu nodded. Dean Jian's lounge. Bai Lion knocked and entered. Dean Jian was in the middle of a conversation when he saw Bai Lion. He stood up with a smile and introduced her. "This is the president of our Jiangyin, President Yun." "President Yun," Bai Lion greeted the other party. President Yun looked at Bai Lion and naturally recognized her as the spirited girl with the zither under Pu Ziohan's lens. However, thinking that she belonged to Jiang University and was out of reach, he felt quite despondent. "Miss Bai, the doors of Jiangyin will always be open for you." "Dean Jian, please rest." Knowing that Bai Lion and Dean Jian had matters to discuss, Yun Chang didn't linger and opened the door of the lounge to leave. Downstairs, Bai Shayaki was together with Mrs. Song, accompanied by that girl who often studied with Bai Shayaki on the 5th floor, while Professor Jia was networking with some people in the front. As Yun Chang descended, Professor Jia quickly put down his cup and walked over. "President, you've come down." President Yun put away his despondent expression and maintained a calm and steady demeanor. "Is Dean Jian in good health? When will he come out?" After asking a few questions, Professor Jia remembered the students behind him and introduced them. All of these are my students." Bai Shaoqi and Yun Ning hurriedly greeted Yun Chang. "President." Yun Chang nodded to them, and raising his eyes, already spotted several leaders from the music exchange meeting. He walked over to network with them. After Yun Chang left, Mrs. Song lowered her voice slightly. "Was that the president of Jiangyan just now? He must be quite familiar with Dean Jian, right?" "Right." Bai Shaoqi also withdrew her gaze. Although Jiangyan didn't have the influence of Jiang University, it wasn't an institution ordinary schools could compare with. Holding the position of president of Jiangyan meant having significant political influence. The Song family was able to sway Professor Jia with money because Bai Shaoqi was introduced by the president of Baikeng Music School. They were all acquaintances. They could offer resources and gifts to Professor Jia who would accept them. But if it were the president of Jiangyan, without a familiar intermediary, who would dare to accept mysterious gifts from a stranger? Upstairs, "Let Yan Lu go receive the award." Bai Lion inquired Dean Jian about the Huic Award. Dean Jian casually mentioned, "I have to talk to a few sponsors for a while. Let Old Hu take you down for a bite. It doesn't start until 7. There are many booths downstairs." "Okay." The two of them left the lounge together. Old Hu followed behind Bai Lion. At the staircase entrance, Dean Jian suddenly remembered something. "By the way, there's a play needing composition, an ancient-style battlefield type, and the theme music hasn't been decided yet. I think it's very suitable for you. Are you interested?" Bai Lion hadn't written music for quite a while. Not to mention Yan Lu's fans are eagerly waiting. Dean Jian himself was persistently urging, but Bai Lion remained immovable as a mountain. Nowadays, few young people seemed to be studying drama, and Dean Jian thought that if Bai Lion composed, he was willing to do the arrangement for her. Given Bai Jian's appeal among young people and the impact of every single one of Bai Lion's songs, Dean Jian thought, why should the name Bai Jian only circulate in the entertainment circle? He always felt that there was still an unreleased energy in Bai Lion's heart. Look at her, writing about gambling and reminiscing about the old days with such lightness. Yet every song she writes becomes a hit. If she really exerted that energy, might there appear a piece as enduring as Bai Yizing? White Robe. A rare surge of enthusiasm welled up in Dean Jian's heart, and he stopped, hands clasped behind him, looking at Bai Lion. "What do you think? Do you want to get serious and have a go?" "Battlefield." The dean spoke with earnest, prompting Bai Lion to seek clarification. "A play." Aside from the composition Gambling with Liquor she created for Yan Lu, she had written many pieces with varied styles. "The National Theatre's original play, Blossoms on the Tree," the dean explained, outlining the context. "It's a work launched by the former head before retiring, and its theme song remains undecided." Bai Lion had also heard of the National Theatre. Yan Lu was currently preparing for examinations at the National Theatre. This was true art, an original work launched by the previous head. "Dean Jian," Bai Lion withdrew her gaze, "you must be joking." If it was about opera, she had seen plenty during palace banquets, but she had never watched a play and didn't understand the form or style. "The essence of what we're interested in is the drama's core." Dean Jian discerned Bai Lion's reluctance. "Drama is just another form of performance. Once you've seen the script, you'll understand why I recommended you." Lifting her eyes, Bai Lion noticed that the organizers were already waiting nearby. She made her way downstairs. "You should attend to your important tasks." She descended the stairs while Dean Jian stood at the top. Bai Lion was probably one of the few challenging people he had met in his life. The concert hall was vast. Bai Lion paused at the Konghu exhibition stand to listen for a while before moving on to the next one. Lao Hu followed closely behind her, only approaching to converse in a low voice when Bai Lion needed an explanation. His demeanor was very respectful. Now serving as Dean Jian's sole assistant, he was recognized by those well acquainted with the dean. "Mr. Hu," a middle-aged man approached from not too far away, shaking hands with Lao Hu before turning his attention to Bai Lion. "And this is..." It was neither Leng Xiu nor anyone he recognized. "This is Miss Bai," Lao Hu answered, then gently introduced her to the approaching figure. "This is Director Li, a member of Dean Jian's previous team." Nice to meet you. Bai Lion was polite. With Lao Hu's attitude, even Director Li didn't presume too much. Looking at the stand and listening for a while, he said, surprised, "So you're Miss Bai. You originally studied the pipa." He had just wanted to make conversation, and finding Bai Lion knowledgeable about pipa music, they talked a bit more. After meeting several people who knew Director Li, Bai Lion finally excused herself to check out another exhibition. When Professor Jia arrived with 2 students, Director Li was getting ready to head backstage. "This is Yan Ning. I've mentioned her to you before." Professor Jia introduced his protege to Director Li. And as for Bai Shayaki, because she was studying as an amateur, he didn't elaborate more. "This is Bai Shayaki, my student from this summer's intake." Both Yan Ning and Bai Shayaki greeted Director Li respectfully. Before coming, Professor Jia had already informed them that Director Li had been a part of Dean Jian's team, a cultural bureau's core member, and also served as a professor at Jiangyan specializing in pipa. Director Li's demeanor was quite official. In such a setting, Madame Song stood beside Bai Shayaki without getting involved in the conversation. It was evident that Professor Jia was keenly paving the way for Yan Ning, introducing her to many industry moguls throughout the evening. As both were about to leave, Director Li caught sight of a group through the crowd. He moved forward, smiling and greeting the arrivals. "Principal, Miss Bai." Yun Chang, who had run into Bai Lion, was in the midst of discussing Jiang University's matters, asking about her studies, when Director Li called. Both stopped. "Old Li, I was just about to take Miss Bai to see that new instrument that arrived." The tone was one of familiarity. Speaking, Yun Chang explained to Bai Lion, "Previously, the museum housed a precious instrument for a long time, which was sold last year. Many regretted not purchasing it earlier. This year there's a new instrument, not as fine as last year's, but better than none." Bai Lion wasn't dressed in a gown like the others. She wore a twisted knit cardigan with a mandarin collar and batwing sleeves, paired with a water blue swirling skirt, exuding a restrained and calm temperament. The jade hairpin at the back of her head shone delicately and moisturized under the lights, radiating a gentle beauty, smooth as cream. She wore no other jewelry. Even in an assembly of famed individuals, she didn't seem out of place next to Yun Chang, composed and at ease. Lao Hu followed her at a distance of 2 steps behind, smiling without joining the conversation. "So you're going to see the instrument," Director Li laughed. "Then you should go ahead. I need to prepare for the opening." It was only after the group had left that Professor Jia acknowledged Yun Chang with a greeting, while Bai Shayaki and Madame Song did not exchange a single word with Bai Lion, though Madame Song's gaze lingered on Bai Lion's departing figure. This was the first time both of them had encountered Bai Lion at such an event. With one hand clasped behind her back, Bai Lion conversed with Yun Chang with such an air of casual elegance that she seemed as if she had stepped out of a painting, the epitome of a noble scion, humble yet holding her own, more natural than anyone else they had seen. Compared to these two, Yaning recalled that this was the young lady she had met in the elevator before. "Teacher," Yaning said, looking at Bai Lion's retreating figure, "the beautiful woman next to the principal is..." "Lack of manners," Professor Jia reprimanded with a smile any term that addressed beauty inadequately. "I don't know who she is, but you all need to be polite when you see her." Director Li didn't introduce her to him, but since she could hold a conversation with Yun Chang, Professor Jia knew this young lady wasn't ordinary. "Be polite," Bai Shayaki unconsciously blurted out. Madame Song also withdrew her gaze and looked towards Professor Jia. "Yes, didn't you see Director Li calling her Miss Bai, and accompanying her to see the instruments was none other than the principal of Jiangyan?" Professor Jia said without doubting Bai Shayaki's question, instructing her with the most important point. "And did you notice the person who was following her on her left?" Yaning and Bai Shayaki turned their heads back again, but Bai Lion and Yun Chang had already walked far away. Nevertheless, they could still see Old Hu, dressed in unremarkable gray clothes, respectfully following behind Bai Lion. Professor Jia said gravely, "That is Dean Jian's first assistant. Even Dean Jian's 3 senior disciples call him uncle, and his status in Dean Jian's heart is by no means lower than that of his disciples." Yaning suddenly understood. No wonder, when I saw her last time at Jiangyan going to the recording studio. Teacher, you don't know her either. There are many people whom I, your teacher, don't know, Professor Jia chuckled. You all need to be smart about it. His gaze fell on by Shayaki and Madame Song, who both seemed a bit out of sorts. Mu family, Tingyu Pavilion. Dong Xiaobai seldom returned home, and the precious octagonal table was only occasionally punctuated by the faint sound of a soup spoon tapping against a bowl or dish. The woman seated at the head of the table was dressed in an exquisitely tailored outfit, the epitome of elegance and luxury. She ate only a couple of bites before setting down her chopsticks, her voice neither cold nor warm. Uncle. Mu Yining had gotten used to her demeanor. The ritual banquet is at the end of the month. Mu Yaojun looked well-preserved. Nearing 50 years old, she appeared just over 30. Taking a silk handkerchief from the butler behind her, she gently wiped her mouth. Jiachen's aunt has returned. I might not have time then. I'll ask again about Gao Yi and Jiachen. Put simply, aside from the elderly patriarch, there was no one in the Mu family worth her making a special trip for. It depends on your schedule. Mu Yining scooped up a spoonful of crab roe soup, his back straight. Your matters take precedence. Since the Gao family had an esteemed daughter, their status had risen like the tide, becoming an unchallenged force in Jiangjing, where no one dared offend. As for the nearly diminished Mu family, the Gao family naturally didn't consider them important. Mu Xiangguang was not involved in the affairs, and Mu Yining also had his own pride. The Mu family was not the kind to curry favor and draw close to power. Even though Mu Yaojun had married into the Gao family, the Mu family never boasted about their relationship with the Gao family. Consequently, Mu Yaojun's life in the Gao family was quite pleasant. After bearing Gao Jiachen, her status further escalated. The butler did once lament over Gao Jiachen, wishing he was a member of the Mu family. But clearly, he did not have the audacity to compete with the Gao family for people. Aristocratic families often intermarry, supporting each other to preserve their legacies over time. But as the Mu family waned and the Gao family, over the years, Gao Jiachen had only returned to the Mu family once when he was 1 year old in the arms of Mu Yaojun. After that, the Gao family did not allow him to visit, marking a clear separation between the Gao and Mu families. The Mu family was no longer of any consequence to them. Ren Wangshuan sat next to Dong Xiaobai, spoon in hand. Throughout this meal, she had scarcely dared to lift her chopsticks. Ren Kaiyan had arranged for so many etiquette teachers for her in her earlier years. She used to disdain the lack of grace in Shen Qing, Jai Heng, and their group, but now sitting here, she too felt uncomfortable under the scrutiny of others. At this table, besides the scholarly-born Dong Xiaobai, the other two were rather daunting figures. After dinner, Mu Yaojun intended to visit Mu Xiangguang. As she stepped out the door, holding her handkerchief, she slowly turned. Tonight's crab soup was not very palatable. In a few days, I'll have someone send over some fresh Hongmao crabs. They are freshly caught and air-shipped. Jiachen's aunt just got quite a few fresh ones from the Jiang family. Mu Yining was momentarily startled, then remembered who Gao Jiachen's young aunt was, and the relationship between the Gao family and the Jiang family, all supported by that one aunt. All right. Just caught from the coastline, there were few families so wealthy and bold as to use their own planes to transport these goods. Mu Yining accompanied Mu Yaojun to visit the old master. After they left, Ren Wangshuan finally exhaled a long breath of relief. Dong Xiaobai stood by her side, watching her reaction with amusement. That's your aunt, too. That's just the way she is. The Gao family has many rules, but she doesn't come back often, so you needn't be too nervous. Her son, Gao Jiachen, now that's a formidable character. Dr. Gao? Ren Wangshuan blurted out in shock. Wasn't this Dr. Gao the same man, whom even with a lot of money, Ren Kaiyan found difficult to meet once in Xiancheng? Such a family, she and Ren Kaiyan wouldn't have dared to imagine back in Xiancheng. Are they really relatives of the Mu family? Oh, seems like you've also heard of his name. Dong Xiaobai was not surprised. Shanghai apartment. When Bai Lion returned, Jiang Fulai was still in room 103, having been invited by Jai Heng to play chess with Lance. Lance had picked up the game of Go quickly, and by the time he left last year, he could play Jiu Heng to a draw, winning most of the time. In these past few days, ever since Lance arrived in Jiangjing, Jiu Heng hadn't won a single game. Jiu Heng had specially called over Jiang Fulai, who was free that evening, to play against Lance. This game isn't fun at all. Having lost yet another game, Lance, with his not-so-fluent Chinese and his hands pressing on the board, was ready to stand up. Jiang Fulai was seated opposite him, loosely holding a white jade chess piece between his right index and middle fingers. He calmly looked up, his noble phoenix eyes resting on Lance, an attitude of an idle man of wealth. The esteemed chief physician of MTR, with just a casual glance from him, stifled any curse that was on the verge of being spoken. Lance, wanting to curse but not daring to, silently sat back down and finished the game with extreme frustration. Then they began a new battle. Jiu Heng stood behind Jiang Fulai, holding his pipe, lazily blowing a ring of smoke. Bai Lion entered with her fingerprint. Room 103 had only recorded her and Jiu Heng's fingerprints. As soon as Lance saw her, he quickly jumped up. "Bai, come here." Bai Lion walked over, glanced at the situation, and realized that Lance was almost being massacred. She casually picked up a black piece and placed it on the board. Opposite her, Jiang Fulai. He silently smiled. All right, how was he supposed to make a move now? Only then did Jiu Heng put away his smoking pipe, drawling, "Let's call it a day." Lance was relentless, insisting on having Bai Lion play in his place against Jiang Fulai. Jiu Heng threatened him, "I'll have alien play go with you all day tomorrow." Bai Lion would be even more terrifying than Jiang Fulai. Lance silently returned to the dining table, letting Jiu Heng brew tea for him to calm his nerves. It's not that he didn't want to brew it himself, but Jiu Heng didn't want to let him fuss over it. Bai Lion followed Jiang Fulai up the stairs. In the echoing stairwell, Jiang Fulai told her about the incident tonight when Tang Ming almost drove him mad. After he finished speaking, Bai Lion spoke unhurriedly. "Teacher Jiang, I think I saw your aunt tonight." There were many individuals who stopped to admire Bai Lion upon seeing her. But Gao Shu's gaze was special, one of appreciation mixed with surprise and a caring gentleness. And that Chong Sam, it was made by the same person who made the daily clothes for Gao Yan. Almost at first glance, Bai Lion recognized it. Gao Shu had just finished talking with Xu Qingyu. Her car was on the way back. They happened upon Mu Yaozhen's car, and naturally, Mu Yaozhen recognized Gao Shu's car. She got out of her car to greet Gao Shu. Gao Shu sat in the back and did not get out of the car. She rolled down the window and, leaning lazily against the back seat, nodded to Mu Yaozhen. "Did you like the crabs I sent you? They were very fresh. Jiachin liked them too." Facing Gao Shu, Mu Yaozhen naturally couldn't maintain the demeanor of a haughty lady. "That's good." Gao Shu chatted idly with her for a few moments, then raised her window and signaled the driver to continue driving. Jiang Fulai's call came through, and Gao Shu's spirits lifted. She sat up straight and answered the phone. Shu said, somewhat surprised, as Jiang Fulai seldom called her. They had WeChat, but rarely chatted. Most matters were conveyed to her by Jiang Ziju. "Why are you calling me?" It was indeed out of the ordinary. Jiang Fulai returned to his room after staying a long while in room 103. His clothes had picked up a faint smell of tobacco, and he was preparing to take a bath, holding his loungewear. His voice was casual. "Did you go to the concert today?" He had never before taken such interest in her whereabouts. Gao Shu's fingers rested on her knees, and after a brief thought, she said in surprise, "You. Don't tell me." She recognized me. Without speaking a word or giving Bai Lion overly attentive looks, she had been concerned about revealing anything to Bai Lion. "Yes, I mentioned you to her," Jiang Fulai said, turning with his clothing in hand. "What did she say?" Gao Shu quickly thought, knowing the gift she selected for Bai Lion had to be considerable. She had gone out of her way overseas to find a collector to select an imperial green hairpin for Bai Lion. Jiang Fulai dashed Gao Shu's hopes of giving Bai Lion another hairpin, and at the moment, Gao Shu had not yet found another appropriate gift for Bai Lion. Luckily, there was an auction later in the week, and Gao Shu had already had Secretary Zhu schedule it in. Gao Shu stated formally, "If not, then don't wait any longer. Take me to meet her." Jiang Fulai reached for the bathroom door, stopping in front of the mirror. It depends on her schedule. I know, Gao Shu smiled, knowing about Bai Lion's existence through news from Gao Yan. She did not dare to inquire about the people around Jiang Fulai. Just let me know in advance when she is available. She hung up the phone. Jiang Fulai casually placed the phone on the washstand and began to unbutton his shirt. The Gao family. Mu Yaojun waited for Gao Yi and Gao Jiachin to return, standing at the door to take the overcoat off Gao Yi. He spoke to Gao Jiachin at his side. Have you had any contact with Professor Ma at the Tengfeng class or at the Ma Institute? As you know, Professor Ma always leaves right after his classes, Gao Jiachin said indifferently. They discussed some research matters. Once they were done talking, Mu Yaojun brought up the encounter with Gao Shu she had on the road. Gao Yi narrowed his eyes, turning to Gao Jiachin. Your young aunt is back. Try to arrange to meet her in the next couple of days. Her word carries more weight than that of our entire family. It couldn't be helped. After all, Gao Yi was Jiang Fulai's uncle. But Jiang Fulai had long blocked his phone number. At one time, Gao Yi dared to leverage his status as the uncle. But now, even seeing Jiang Fulai was not easy, let alone anything else. Apart from those in Jiang Fulai's laboratory, even ordinary people found it difficult to meet the young master Jiang. Since marrying into the Gao family, Mu Yaojun had only visited the Jiang family estate once. Later, as Mu Yaojun went to the kitchen to arrange a late-night snack for father and son, the old butler mentioned something about the Mu family. You jest, the butler chuckled. They only invited the lady. Gao Yi heard the remark and let it be, not taking it to heart. He hardly ever visited the Mu family. He might have gone if the old master Mu had come out of retirement. Currently, the Mu family was managed by a woman, and most families in Jiangjing did not take it seriously. Of course, Mu Yaojun also never mentioned this matter to the Gao family. The following day, early in the morning, Ning Xiao finished packing his bag and looked at the main hall, whispering to the memorial tablet, Grandma, I'm going to school now. He lit a stick of incense. It was a very quiet scene, until Tang Ming's voice came from the front door. Brainiac, hurry up, the elevator's here. Tang Ming spent his weekends in Ning Xiao's guest room. Ning Xiao lived alone, and the group would come over every week, either freeloading food and drinks at room 103 or at Ming Dingheng's place. In the elevator, Zhang Shais yawned, greeting Ning Xiao and Tang Ming. Good morning. Their breakfast usually came from Kangyu Tower, prepared by Ming Dingheng in room 301. Today's crab roe buns taste even better than the last time. Tang Ming picked up a bun with his chopsticks. The sleepy Zhang Shai's eyes lit up. Your Highness! Pu Ziohen's eyelids twitched, signaling Tang Ming. Tang Ming stuffed a bun into Zhang Shai's mouth, dismissing him. Your Highness, just eat and be quick about it. Pu Ziohen, holding his chopsticks, glanced over. Zhang Shai's had a very handsome but foolish face, acting silly every day. It hadn't been long since they came out, and he was already showing his true colors. Why couldn't he be more like Kai Lu, who was always steady? Ziohen paused slightly. If only others could take a leaf out of Jiang's brother's book and exhibit a little elegance and charm. Outside the door, Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai came in. Pu Ziohen was struck with awe. Yes, there was an air of grandeur. Bai Lion had a fondness for the breakfast at Kangyu Tower, which itself boasted a century-old heritage and had produced several imperial chefs. Their breakfasts were delivered from there every weekend. From Monday to Friday, Ming Dingheng also wanted to deliver breakfast to Bai Lion. The chefs at Kangyu Tower, of course, wanted to please Miss Bai even more. But she had refused them, preferring the cafeteria while at school. After all, she still held the canteen card from Master Jiang. Since then, Ming Dingheng had lost a morning task each day, which left him quite desolate. There was also a food container beside them, filled with freshly prepared crab roe buns. Jai Heng and Lance had not yet woken up so early, so Ming Dingheng had saved them for the two of them. The buns are very fresh today, Bai Lion said as she held the chopsticks, having eaten 2 more crab roe buns than usual today and not touched the other snacks as much. Ming Dingheng picked up his small phone, made a note, and instructed Jiang Ziju to dispatch 2 more teams to procure crabs. It was indeed the right season for enjoying crabs. These fresh items might not yet have appeared at the Jiang family home, but here at Bai Lion's place, they were already on the table. Days flew by. Lance's medical summit came to an end on Tuesday. During this period, instead of staying at the state guest house, he lived with Jai Heng. There were many waiting for him there. After attending the last summit, even the assistant who drove Lance to Shanghai apartment found it surprising. One would think, given Lance's status, many in Jiangjing would want to meet him. Wherever he was, there were always many people lying in wait, many of whom were business tycoons with hired personnel on the lookout. Oddly enough, there were none at Shanghai apartment. This complex maintained a state of tranquility. The assistant escorted Lance to Building 5 and saw Lance confidently get out of the car without seeking any protection. "Professor, please be wary of the crowd," he cautioned. Lance waved it off, unconcerned. "No problem, don't worry about me." The assistant, watching his back, trembled with apprehension. Thankfully, no one came forward. As he drove out of the complex, he noticed 2 security guards at the gate, both tall and burly. Even those sweeping the streets in the complex flexed noticeable muscles when raising their arms. The assistant glanced carefully. Clearly, this place was filled with capable individuals. Then he called someone from MTR, expressing his admiration. "This complex is really incredible. It's quieter here. Professor Lance will have better rest." Whenever Lance was free, he would join Jai Heng, taking their chessboard to the nearby park to challenge the students of Jiang University. The Jiang University Forum even had a post about 2 mischievous old legends playing Go in the college town park, unbeatable by any gifted student. Many talented students were eager to test themselves, making the morning hours bustling with activity. In the afternoons, the pair would go fishing. They were also invited to attend a small-scale concert by director Jian. On Friday morning, Jai Heng took Lance to visit the Su family to see Su Siki. The 2 old men seemed busier every day than Bai Lion. Afternoon, 103. As the end of the month neared, the building butler came to see Jai Heng with 2 boxes of gifts and to discuss the end-of-month ceremony. He also delivered a crab sent by Mu Yaojun to Jai Heng's home. Very fresh, it was just 2 in total. The Mu family kept 1, and the other was for Jai Heng, half the size of a pot. Jai Heng handed the building butler the 2 large boxes of unsteamed fresh buns to take to Mu Yining. Crab roe buns. "Lance and I can't eat too much, so take these back for Yining to try. They're pretty good." The butler nodded, accepting the boxes without much question. What delicacy didn't the Mu family have? He then discussed with Jai Heng the matter of the Mu family ceremony at the end of the month. Bai Lion finished her week without literature reports and returned early. She pressed her fingerprint on room 103 and greeted Jai Heng first. "Grandpa, I'm back." Tang Ming followed behind her, calling out, "Grandpa, I'm back too." Jai Heng smiled, his eyes crinkling with joy as he went to the kitchen to bring them fruit to take up to their rooms while they did their homework. The building butler promptly stood up from the sofa to greet Bai Lion. "Miss Bai, will you be coming next Saturday?" To accommodate the students' schedules, Mu Yining had also moved the date to the weekend. Holding her laptop and dressed in a white coat with tendrils of hair falling over her forehead, her eyes and brows relaxed, Bai Lion glanced at the butler. "Next Saturday." Concentrated on her studies, Bai Lion hadn't been told by Jai Heng about Jai Shaojun's upcoming event. He handed her the fruit and explained leisurely, "It's about your uncle." He didn't bring up Jai Mulan. Mentioning her might indeed make Bai Lion too disinterested to continue listening. After thinking for a moment, Bai Lion agreed. "Then I'll go." The butler internally rejoiced at her decision. If Miss Bai attended, the old master would certainly make an appearance. He hid his excitement and added, "Your classmates are also very welcome." Tang Ming thanked the butler. Without lingering, Bai Lion simply told Jai Heng before leaving, "Grandpa, I'll be going out to eat later." Jai Heng acknowledged with an O and asked Tang Ming, "Xiaoteng, will you all go out to eat too?" "Grandpa, she's going to eat with Brother Jiang," Tang Ming whispered, raising his hand to speak with Jai Heng. "Jai Heng," he lifted his smoking pipe just as Jiang Fulai was mentioned, "is Xiaojiang coming on Saturday?" Bai Lion, unbothered, replied that Jiang Fulai was having dinner with his aunt later. I'll ask him later. He wouldn't miss it, Tang Ming muttered under his breath. As the young people ascended the stairs, Jai Heng closed the door, stuffed his pipe with tobacco, and lit it up. To prevent a repeat of the last incident, he methodically said to the butler, Xiaozheng will probably go too. Su En is sitting with your business partners. Just prepare a separate table for us. Heng, hesitating a bit. After all, Jai Heng was an elder, and it didn't seem right for him to sit with a bunch of kids. It's fine. Jai Heng had never been particular about these things. If not for Bai Lion and the others, he wouldn't have come back to Jiangjing. Seeing the butler's hesitation, he lowered his head and took a drag of his cigarette. You arrange it like that. I'll go back and discuss it with the young lady. Outside the courtyard gate, Lance and Jiang He were still squatting under the sun umbrella, looking at the newly sown seeds. The wind outside was actually a bit chilly. He told Jiang He to come in and put on a jacket. And Miss Mu Lan, the butler remembered this matter, made an appointment for next Wednesday to transfer her household registration. The ordeal of Jai Mulan's household registration went through several twists and turns. After countless obstacles, the Jai family's children ultimately returned to the Mu family, and now only Bai Lion remained on Jai Heng's household registration book. Smoke wafted through the air. Jai Heng lowered his eyelids. The butler, having conveyed his message, did not stay to disturb Jai Heng any further. After speaking with Jai Heng, he left with the crab roe buns that Jai Heng had given him. Lance came in with Jiang He, and seeing the crab lying in the box in the hallway, he was startled, then said, There are still some left. I don't feel like eating today. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Kangyu Tower. Gao Shu was somewhat nervous. She had come an hour early and was on the phone with Gao Yan, inquiring about Bai Lion's personality. You're asking about Lion. Don't be nervous. On the other end of the phone, Gao Yan set down the fan in her hand, walked out to the porch to look at the koi under the bridge. She's very well behaved and polite. Gao Yan leaned on the bridge railing, her figure illuminated by the light in front, uttering a string of praises for Bai Lion. These things had already been discussed between her and Gao Shu over WeChat. It was the same old story. Gao Shu briefly met Bai Lion once before and could tell just from her appearance that Bai Lion was a person of cultivation and grace, no doubt nurtured in culture and the arts from a young age. Speaking of which, Gao Shu, like Gao Yan, found it strange. Where had Bai Lion encountered such traditional cultural influence? I know, but I'm still a bit nervous, Gao Shu responded with a wry smile. She had reached the position of deputy director in her 30s, and now a promotion was imminent. She had never been this nervous, not even when she alone had managed to protect her unconscious nephew. Sigh, it hasn't been easy getting to today, and I still don't know if that girl can put up with his temper. Jiang Fulai and his sister and brother-in-law bore no resemblance to each other. Since his parents passed away at the age of 8, he turned into a completely different person, aloof. He was indifferent toward everyone, sparing little words or laughter, even scolding Jiang Ziju for no reason. You don't have to worry about that, Gao Yan said, raising her eyebrows when Gao Shu mentioned this subject. Gao Shu hung up the phone, somewhat surprised. She had just asked Gao Yan about Bai Lion's preferences and had Secretary Zhu call over Kangyu Tower's manager to discuss the dishes, pastries, and teas to be served later. The manager bowed respectfully as he entered, replying to Gao Shu, Jiang Xiao has already arranged these. He did it himself. Gao Shu stood up, surprised. Yes. Gao Shu was quite astonished. Considering Jiang Fulai's expression, which always seemed to say, Who are you? He was nonchalant even about his own meals. Jiang He was so picky, and only Ming Dingheng and Jiang Ziju would look after him. It seemed somewhat fantastical. After the manager left, Gao Shu took her seat by the window again, and Secretary Zhu poured her a cup of tea. Now you can relax too. Gao Shu took the teacup and nodded his head. There was still time. Secretary Zhu stood beside her, bringing up a formal issue. Yesterday, Zhao Li saw Mr. Xu having dinner with Deputy Director Jiu. Deputy Director Jiu. Why is he so persistent in his grudge against you? Xu Qingyu had dinner with Gao Shu last week, where they discussed the issue of composing. This week, Jiu Yinghui reached out to Shu Qingyu. Gao Shu had a certain influence in both the Jiang family and the scientific research circle. However, in the drama theater, Gao Shu had fought her way to where she was today all on her own. Her son, though learning piano behind Master Jian, knew Master Jian treated all three of his disciples equally. "If only Master Jian were still composing now," Gao Shu said softly, skimming off the surface foam, "I wouldn't have to contend with Jiu Yinghui anymore." Master Jian was Gao Shu's first choice. Secretary Zhu was momentarily at a loss for words, aware of the difficulties Gao Shu had faced along her journey. But aside from Lu Jiu, no one in the Gao family stood side by side with her. Lu Jiu was still an apprentice and hadn't inherited Gao Shu's artistic talent. What he could do was indeed minimal. At 6:50, Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai arrived. Shu hurriedly set down her teacup, dusted off her sleeves, and stood up to look toward the door. The door was pushed open by a pair of hands with distinct knuckles, and a houndstooth scarf was neatly draped over the arm. This was Jiang Fulai. Last week when she saw Bai Lion, she had been dressed in plain clothes, graceful and restrained. Today's red coat was bright and captivating. It made Gao Shu pause slightly once again. "Auntie," Jiang Fulai said, as he closed the door of the private room, greeting Gao Shu politely. Even this address of auntie carried an extreme blandness. Bai Lion also greeted Gao Shu with ease and without constraint. Secretary Zhu quietly moved aside, watching the young woman inconspicuously, and was quite surprised internally. The Gao family was known for its beauties. Gao Si had married Jiang Sheng, which became a celebrated match in Jiangjing, followed by Gao Yan's marriage to Su Juling. In Jiangjing now, there were also the young ladies of the Ming family whom Secretary Zhu had seen, and indeed they were beautiful. But having seen Miss Bai today, Secretary Zhu felt that even Ming Zongyao would have to step back. Merely the temperament Miss Bai possessed was something the Ming family could not match. Source: updated on Ye 0 Nuke 0. Omicron others, even if it was Elder Chen seated beside Jiang Fulai, would be overshadowed by it. Yet Miss Bai remained calm and collected, with an effortless poise. Jiang Fulai picked up the teapot and poured a cup of tea for both himself and Bai Lion. Outside, the manager had started to serve dishes. "Is the academic pressure at Jiang University very high? Last time I saw in the news that the probe successfully landed on Mars," Gao Shu said to Bai Lion beside her. She had heard from Gao Yan that Bai Lion was academically inclined and might end up spending her future in the lab with Jiang Fulai. Gao Shu studied art, but during the past 2 years, because of the Gao family and Jiang Fulai, she had come to understand a bit as well. Just last night, she asked the Gao family for some scientific research materials to review, but to the ears of the experts, there were always discrepancies. Bai Lion subtly steered the conversation away. The conversation began with scientific research and eventually shifted to art. Once the topic of art arose, Gao Shu inevitably spoke at length, mentioning how her art teacher had great expectations for Jiang He. Bai Lion nodded. "Jiang He's paintings have a strong sense of illusion." The two chatted intermittently. Jiang Fulai seldom spoke, only occasionally serving Bai Lion some vegetables. He had always been reserved by nature, treating everyone the same, so Gao Shu was not surprised. Gao Shu became engrossed in the conversation until the meal ended, and she reluctantly put down her chopsticks. She then asked Secretary Zhu to present a gift box and personally handed it to Bai Lion. Downstairs at Kangyu Tower, Gao Shu and Secretary Zhu stood together, watching as Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai got into the car. Once the car turned the corner and was out of sight, Gao Shu turned with a smile. "This child is truly remarkable." She finally understood why Gao Yan was so bent on taking Bai Lion as her goddaughter. Secretary Zhu saw that she was pleased but didn't want to distract her with other matters. Nevertheless, he spoke up. "Dr. Gao has asked to meet with you." Dr. Gao? There was no one else it could be but Gao Jiachen. Gao Shu's smile faded as she pressed her brow. "Tell him I don't have time." The Gao family members only sought her out to join Jiang Fulai's group or to enter the Ma Institute. What else could they want? Recently, Gao Shu had been busy with matters of the theater and indeed had a full schedule. When Gao Shu returned home, Lu Jiu was practicing piano. Seeing her come in, he came over to help her with her house shoes. "Mom," Lu Jiu said, placing the slippers beside her without leaving, but instead he said, "My teacher asked if he could see the script for Blossoms on the Tree." The play had not yet premiered, and rehearsals were underway. Even the theme song was not settled. Copies of the script for Blossoms on the Tree were only held by those involved internally. Last time, to convince Dean Jian to compose the music, Gao Shu briefly shared the main plot with him. "Your teacher wants to see the script for the play." The script was not a secret, and Gao Shu couldn't figure out why Dean Jian would want to see the script if he wasn't interested in composing, but she didn't refuse. "I will send it to you from the study." Jiangjing, Xiu family. Xiu Qingyu was an elder artist, and recently 2 rising stars from the theater had approached him. He was weighing the pros and cons. He stepped out from the backseat of Jiu Yinghui's car. Jiu Yinghui exited the driver's seat and looked at Xiu Qingyu with a smile. "Mr. Xiu, I heard your son's asthma has been troubling him. I have an invitation card from an MTR doctor that I hope could be of some help to you." With that said, he handed a gilded business card to Xiu Qingyu. Xiu Qingyu accepted it, looking at Jiu Yinghui. "Thank you, Dean Jiu." "Jian," Jiu Yinghui smiled, "and let him personally arrange it for you." As a Guzheng Heir, Dean Jian's reputation in Jiangyan was well established, to say the least. In the recent 6 months, as Yan Lu's master arranger, he had far surpassed others in the art world. Xiu Qingyu himself was not inept at arranging music, but not to mention that Dean Jian's skill level was above his. Having the words Dean Jian on his work would also add a different value to it. He returned home with the business card, beginning to ponder over this matter. He had always been aware of the old theater's dean canvassing for a theme song, and had even had someone get a copy of the script, Blossoms on the Tree. The Jiu family had been involved in theater for generations, with his grandmother being a Peking opera heir, holding significant weight in the art industry. Gao Shu may not have had such a profound heritage, but she was a member of the Gao family. Xiu Qingyu had hesitated between the two, certain that he had to compose this piece and confident of triumph. It was just a matter of which side to choose, knowing that it would inevitably offend one of them. At his age, no one did not want to climb higher. He was no different, with a strong sense of utilitarianism. Not only had Jiu Yinghui discovered his son's issues, but also made a promise about Dean Jian. Each action was a display of his power. Xiu Qingyu laid the business card on the table, a decision already forming in his mind. Shanghai apartment. When Bai Lion returned, Zhang Shais, Tang Ming, and Ning Xiao were doing their homework in room 303. Pu Xiaohan and Jiang, he sat on the carpet playing with jigsaw puzzles. In her hand was a fresh rose, with dewdrops still clinging to the crimson petals. "It's next Saturday." Bai Lion entered the study, where the desk was decorated with trinkets, and beside the black computer there was a new celadon vase. Ming Dingheng had brought it back several days before. In the vase, a few roses were carelessly inserted at different times. Some were in full bloom, others were wilting. Bai Lion slowly added the rose in her hand to the celadon vase. Jiang Fulai lounged by the desk, looking down at the roses in the vase, and said casually, "At the Mu family's place?" "Right." Bai Lion sat in front of the computer, powered it on, pulled up Ma Institute's email from her inbox, printed it out, then opened Xiaoqi's email detailing the latest developments with Wen Jixia. She scanned through it, opened WeChat, and began messaging Suen. The Wen family was an established family of Jiangjing involved in the electronics industry. Scrolling down, she saw a message from Dean Jian. Just one file, Blossoms on the Tree by Lion, with her good memory, recalled that this was the play Dean Jian had mentioned to her before. She clicked to receive the file and connected to the printer, printing it out as well. Jiang Fulai grabbed the printed thesis she had produced, neatened the pages with a stapler, and secured them together. "I'm free on Saturday." After the thesis was printed, Blossoms on the Tree followed shortly. Jiang Fulai again took action, binding the entire drama script together. He had no interest in drama, merely glancing over it. She sent the translated documents to Ning Xiao's email. As she stood up from the desk, she saw blossoms on the tree beside her. She looked down at the cover for a moment, then sat back down and began to read under the study's light. The script of 40-some pages wasn't long. Bai Lion read quickly, skimming 10 lines at a time. Blossoms on the tree was derived from military strategy. The script told a similar story, using strategy to make a small force seem large, cleverly employing a battle devised by Chenyi to create a dramatic tale. Chenyi was a disciple of Bai Zhangyu, who was adept at using this tactic. It took her no more than 5 minutes to finish reading the script. Her fingers resting on the keyboard, she replied to Dean Jian, "The story is good." Nearing midnight, Dean Jian hadn't gone to bed, as if he had been waiting specifically for her response. "Now are you interested?" Bai Lion leaned back, her pale fingers on the keyboard, and after a few minutes of thought, she replied, "I don't have much time." The Tengfeng class schedule was intense, and she was also studying for the Boyuan class. Physics was based on mathematical foundations as well, so tackling Wang Xu's problems also served to improve her own skills. Ma Institute didn't relax his demands on her either, seeming quite urgent. Bai Lion really didn't have much time, and she thought for such an art form, she was too young. Even if Dean Jian trusted her, the theater's people probably wouldn't, she guessed. Bai Jian had caused such an earthquake in the music world over the past year. The winters in Jiangjing were quick to get cold. It was simple for Jai Heng to make summer dresses for Bai Lion, but winter clothes were not done as quickly as before. One piece of clothing could take half a month or even longer to finish. Bai Lion's wardrobe had some additional clothes sent over by Ming Dingheng. After Gao Yan learned of this from Ming Dingheng, she asked Bai Lion to meet at Kinksin Building on a Sunday afternoon so that the tailor could measure her size. Upon hearing this, Gao Shu also brought out several pieces of rare fabric. Looking at the fabrics she brought, which were fine and shimmered on the surface. These were jobs that only Gao Yan and Gao Shu could undertake, apart from those Jiang Fulai hurriedly worked on. Bai Lion stood on the carpet, her arms casually extended, her brows and eyes lazily drooping, letting others take her measurements. The female tailor noted down the figures on paper. Gao Shu and Gao Yan stood to one side, looking on at this scene from an angle, which was quite harmonious. After the measurements, the female tailor took the data and left. Gao Yan gestured for Bai Lion to come and try the new pastries at Kinksin Building to see if they suited her taste. It was at this moment. Secretary Zhu came in from outside, appearing somewhat flustered. She was slightly impolite, knocking and barging in. "Madam Su, Miss Bai." She stood in the hall, greeted Gao Yan and Bai Lion, then looked towards Gao Shu. "Mr. Shu has categorically declined your invitation. Today, he accepted Vice President Jiu's invitation and is watching a rehearsal at the theater." These were all insiders here. Gao Yan and Gao Shu had decades of friendship, and as for Bai Lion, she was someone that Jiang Fulai and a few others had high hopes for. Secretary Zhu had no intention of avoiding the topic. So as not to make Bai Lion feel uncomfortable, she did not treat Bai Lion as an outsider. "He made it clear he's siding with Jiu Yinghui." Gao Shu put down her teacup and stood up. She was the first to find Xiu Qingyu, thinking she had a fair chance of success. Unexpectedly, Xiu Qingyu had been dragging out for half a month and at this time shifted towards Jiu Yinghui, catching her off guard. Gao Yan, who usually enjoyed watching Gao Shu's dramas, had some understanding of the situation. She straightened up. "Is it troublesome?" "A bit." Gao Shu stood up, smiled at Bai Lion and Gao Yan. "I won't be able to join you two for dinner tonight. I'm heading to the theater." "No worries." Bai Lion stood up, dressed in a simple white top, her eyes dark, reflecting the warm hues of the entire room, her voice steady and unhurried. Hearing her voice, Gao Shu calmed down. "Come over to my place for dinner in a couple of days." She grabbed her bag and hurried off. After Gao Shu left, Gao Yan finally had the chance to explain the theater situation to Bai Lion. It hasn't been easy for her these years. It's all right with the old dean around, but if he retires and hands over the position to Jiu Yinghui, Shashu will struggle even more at the theater. Butler Su stood behind Gao Yan, frowning as well. "This Jiu Yinghui always plays dirty politics." When Miss Gao was up for the position of vice dean, he tried to sabotage her too. Bai Lion lowered her head to blow away the foam from her tea, listening quietly to Gao Yan's words. It wasn't until Gao Yan mentioned blossoms on the tree that Bai Lion looked up. Blossoms on the tree? Yes. Gao Yan pinched off a piece of plum blossom cake and bit into it. The theater has launched a new major play, the last piece of work from the old dean before retirement. 5 years in the making, with many actors auditioned. When it's formally performed, I'll take you to see it. Couldn't find anyone else? Bai Lion closed the white porcelain lid of the teacup. Such a masterpiece, most people don't dare to take on. Shushu initially approached Dean Jian. In Jiangjing, it's pretty much just the two of them, but Dean Jian didn't agree. Saying this, Gao Yan tapped her fingertips on the table, looking at Bai Lion, an idea crossing her mind. Lion, you're close to Dean Jian, how about you persuade him? Gao Yan was aware that Bai Lion and Dean Jian were very close, almost paternal friends. She had seen Ning Xiao with Dean Jian. There wasn't the same ease and harmony as when Bai Lion was with him, and Gao Yan always felt there was some indescribable respect from Dean Jian when he spoke of Bai Lion, especially when mentioning Bai Lion's teacher. Gao Yan looked anxiously at Bai Lion. Bai Lion didn't speak, only picked up the white jade bone fan she had set aside earlier. The fan felt cool in summer and surprisingly warm in winter. Holding it with her right hand, she casually opened and closed it, her eyelashes drooping as if mulling over something. The private room fell into silence. Gao Yan, watching Bai Lion deftly play with the fan, knew the gift was well chosen. Never mind, she chuckled, shaking her head. If Dean Jian is saying he's lost his creative inspiration, even your persuasion might not work. It's just that this time for Shushu. No, I'm just thinking. Bai Lion snapped the fan shut, the end pressing against her palm, her demeanor relaxed. When does she approximately need it? Gao Yan didn't expect Bai Lion to suddenly ask this. Gao Yan was taken aback and not too clear on the timetable. In a month or two, I guess. It won't be too rushed. Gambling with liquor would be out in a few days, a month or two. That should be fine. Bai Lion narrowed her eyes slightly. If Dean Jian can't do it, I'll do it. Lao Yi steps out of the Buddha hall, 2 watches combined. One Bai Lion had listened to Jian Zhongyu's collections. The White Snow of Kang Mountain, The Peace of Autumn, and The Sounds of Home. She had heard them all. These were works from Jian Zhongyu's middle period, characterized by simple, steady rhythms and a warm atmosphere. So, when she learned that Jian Zhongyu had become famous for playing The White-Robed Journey, and that his later compositions turned out to be as plain and sincere as Qin Jiu's, Bai Lion was somewhat surprised. Blossoms on the Tree tended toward a tense style with an overwhelming sound, and as the script progressed toward the middle and later stages, it created an anxiety similar to the empty fort strategy. It wasn't a style that Jian Zhongyu excelled in, and indeed he didn't have much energy to continue to create. If he hadn't been unable to find the right person, he would have already retired. Bai Lion put it this way, but Gao Yan and the butler were choked by Bai Lion's remark that Director Jian can't do it. However, they quickly caught the meaning of Bai Lion's words. Alien, you. Gao Yan set down the plum blossom cake and sat up straight. Can you compose music? She knew Bai Lion could play the guzheng, but she had never heard her play it. And judging by the way Director Jian interacted with her, Gao Yan knew that Bai Lion's guzheng skills must not be too shabby. But composing music and such, people without professional skills couldn't just start doing it. With something like a research competition, it was easy for Gao Yan to look toward Bai Lion. Gao Yan had never associated Bai Lion with composition. Now, I suppose I can, Bai Lion said, holding her folding fan. I haven't seen a stage play before. I might not be suitable, just giving it a try. We'll choose the best option later. Gao Shu would certainly seek others too. It's just that they might not measure up to the expertise of Mr. Xiao. Director Jian had a lot of faith in Bai Lion, and although music had no clear boundaries, the stage play's theme song style was somewhat direct. Bai Lion still wasn't clear on the style. Okay, good, Gao Yan said, still not fully processing. I'll tell Shushu. Ming Dingheng's car was waiting downstairs, and Gao Yan escorted Bai Lion to the lobby. After the car had left, Gao Yan wrapped her coat around herself, lost in thought as she turned to the butler. "Butler, do you think it's reliable? It won't interfere with her studies, will it?" According to Su Nanjing, Bai Lion was now the darling of the Physics Institute. The butler wasn't certain either. "Madam, Miss Bai Lion said she wants to try, so let her try." Gao Yan took out her phone and called Gao Shu. At the theater, Gao Shu had already met with Jiu Yinghui and Jiu Yinghui, who were indeed watching a rehearsal of the stage play together. Even the actors for Blossoms on the Tree had been selected over a period of more than 1 year. Jiu Yinghui and Jiu Yinghui were standing up front, speaking with a man who was none other than the play's male lead, Bei Tong. Secretary Zhu whispered to Gao Shu, "They are already discussing the singing issues with Bei Tong." "I know," Gao Shu said with a grim face, turning to go to the back. "What about Teacher Zia? What did he say?" This was her backup plan. "He needs it by December. Teacher Zia said he wouldn't dare to take on something belonging to the old director." Secretary Zhu had a notebook in hand. "He's currently in Baikang. Do you want to go to him?" "Baikang!" Gao Shu climbed the stairs, surprised he was in Baikang but still instructed. "Pick a couple of days and prepare a plane ticket to Baikang for me." She reached her office just in time to answer Gao Yan's call. Bai Lion had mentioned wanting to try composing for her. "She said just to give it a try," Gao Yan sighed. "I've told you before, she plays the Guzheng, maybe she really could come up with something." Hearing about Bai Lion, Gao Shu's mood also improved significantly as she sat at her desk. Really? Then she might even have something in common with Lu Jiu. Gao Shu continued, "Whatever she writes, no matter what, I'll have someone from the theater sing it." "That's what I think too," Gao Yan laughed, the two of them ending up on the same wavelength. Gao Yan merely mentioned it in passing, and Gao Shu noted it down. But after all, even director Jian didn't dare to take on the song, so Gao Shu didn't expect Bai Lion to produce any kind of composition. After hanging up the phone, she discussed the trip to Baikang with Secretary Zhu. Shanghai apartment. When Bai Lion got out of the car, she saw workers busy in the yard of number 103, installing transparent glass on the wall and roof. "Miss Bai, it gets cold in Jiangxing during winter." Ming Dingheng got out of the car and stood behind Bai Lion, explaining, "Putting up the glass will make it like a sunroom." Jiangxing winters were indeed cold. Bai Lion nodded slightly, but remarked that it was much better now than before. In the past, winters in Jiangxing were truly cold, almost like a mini ice age. Lao Yi steps out of the Buddha Hall, 2 watches combined, 103, Jai Heng and Lance weren't there, as the old rascals had gone fishing in the afternoon. In another month, Jiangxing would be ready for ice fishing. She returned to 303, where only Zhang Shais and Tang Ming were doing their homework. Xiao Hen wasn't there, as she had joined Jai Heng and the others to film the fishing scene, and Ning Xiao had been called away to help Zhou Wenqing. Now in the Tingfeng class, the most outstanding ones weren't actually Gao Yuan and his group. Bai Lion was in a league of her own. Beneath her, it wasn't Liang Wuyu or Gao Yuan, but Ning Xiao, with Tang Ming and Gao Yuan even further down. As the quality of the students in the Tingfeng class was so high, Zhou Wenqing also had some thoughts. He preferred Bai Lion, but being in the same physics institute and seeing the abnormal behavior of Dean Huang and academician Ma, he too had come to understand over these 2 months and didn't dare to approach Bai Lion. "Lion Jai," seeing Bai Lion return, Tang Ming lifted the draft paper in his hand. "Haven't you done this problem from the challenge bank yet?" Bai Lion walked over and glanced at it, a math problem. She took off her coat, picked up the remote, sat down on the sofa, turned on the TV, and searched for a drama. "It's similar to the Boyuan classes problems this time, on my desk." Tang Ming pushed open the door to Bai Lion's study. Her study's bookshelf was filled with books, most of which weren't college level, and apart from those, there was a stack of historical records. Tang Ming approached her desk where a stack of neatly bound afur papers was placed, with the translation Bai Lion had just done for them the day before being the topmost on the left. He flipped through and found something that looked like Chinese drama scripts underneath. Thinking it was Yan Lu's script, he flipped another page and finally found the Boyuan class's papers. He pulled it out, closed the door, and left. Bai Lion was lying leisurely on the sofa watching the play, and Tang Ming glanced at it but didn't have the artistic talent to appreciate it. Downstairs, the group that had gone fishing had already returned. Tang Ming received a message from Shen Qing and went downstairs to get fruit. The glass roof in the courtyard was almost finished, the workers were skilled, and there was hardly any noise during installation. "I'll take these too." Tang Ming noticed there were also sunflower seeds left on the table, so he took another pack. "Lion Jai is watching a play, let her have some seeds to crack." Next to him, the dean who was looking at the fish with Lance heard the keyword and paused for a moment. "She's watching a play?" The dean followed Tang Ming to 303. Bai Lion held a black remote in her right hand, leaned against the sofa, and rested her legs lazily as she calmly watched the TV. The dean looked toward the TV. It was a classic domestic ethically themed drama. He sat on Bai Lion's left. "Why did you suddenly start watching a play?" Bai Lion tapped the remote with her fingertips, her tone unhurried. "I want to give it a try." Following suit, the dean had an inkling already in his heart. "Yes, plays are categorized too," said the dean, a theater enthusiast, thrilled to hear Bai Lion wanted to try. "I can introduce you to a few plays with the same style as Following Suit." Bai Lion shook her head. "I might not be able to write the style you're looking for." "Give it a try," the dean said, his tone exuding confidence. "It's also my first time composing music for a play." Jiang Fulai got back late. Tomorrow was Monday, the day of the group meeting, and everyone in his group had the same papers. Jiang Fulai organized the progress of the last 2 weeks of the experiment, and by the time he got back, it was already 10 o'clock. After a day in the lab, he planned to take a shower before heading over to 303 to check on Bai Lion and the others. But the small light in the 302 lounge was on. Jiang Fulai took off his coat with a stretching motion and hung it on the nearby rack, his cool gaze falling on the light, lingering for a moment before he caught on and headed towards the music room. The music room door was not tightly shut, leaving a crack, but the soundproofing was excellent, and one could not hear anything even while standing at the door. He gently pushed the door open. The air conditioner inside was on, with only a small lamp lit, casting a dim light. Bai Lion wasn't sitting on the piano bench as usual, but rather in simple loungewear, lazily seated on the thick black carpet, the piano resting beside her with several sheets of paper scattered around, some with writing, others blank. Oh, and there was a lighter. She seemed a bit lazy, her slender fingers too lethargic to pluck the strings, so she just picked up the lighter next to her, clicking it intermittently. Jiang Fulai was somewhat fastidious about cleanliness. She had only brought a lighter with her. The pale blue flame reflected in her deep black eyes, casting a long shadow of her eyelashes. Seemingly noticing someone at the door, she turned her head, sat up a bit, her hair casually pinned up with a few strands falling onto her brow. She put the piano down and stood up. "Looks like I've been idle too long, you're already back." Lao Yi steps out of the Buddha hall, 2 watches combined. 3, "Something came up at school, what did you have for dinner?" Jiang Fulai approached, bent over to pick up the scattered papers on the ground, embodying the elegance of a clear and breezy moonscape. A new batch of graduate students was about to start, and the school actually wanted to ask if he would take on 2 more team members, but no one dared to mention it to him. "It was fish caught by my grandpa, and today Chen from the office cooked." Bai Lion still fiddled with the lighter, watching him organize things neatly and place them onto the nearby bookshelf. "Your aunt saved 2 pieces for you, and there will be soup for you to bring tomorrow." "All right." Jiang Fulai had little interest in most things. He came from an esteemed background, yet lived more simply in the lab than academician Ma. He was indifferent about almost everything. Even Ming Dengheng and the Jiang family couldn't casually enter such a secretive place as his lab. He even had a special pass but disabled it because he found it bothersome. Only when he was in Xiancheng, having dinner with Bai Lion and Jiang He, did Jiang Fulai not eat at the lab, and that was when Ming Dengheng arranged dinner for a while. But now, Shen Qing and Jai Heng always made sure Jiang Fulai brought a lunchbox when he went to the lab, mostly large dishes and stewed soups made by Shen Qing. "My aunt added something extra to the soup," Bai Lion said lazily as she stood beside him, watching him organize the bookshelf, her voice pausing slightly at the mention of the addition. Jiang Yinghui turned slightly and reached around her waist, his fingertips tensing as he bent his head down, eyes lowered, and asked in an orderly manner from a close distance, "What extra?" "It's what Tang Ming and Ning Xiao drank." Bai Lion's gaze was towards the door, wondering if he might suddenly return. Jiang Yinghui bent his head down, kissing her from behind the backlight. His arms bent around her waist, seemingly cold in demeanor, yet his tense arms held strong power. The slightly rolled-up sleeves revealed faintly protruding veins. "What are you thinking about?" It was some time before Jiang Yinghui spoke again in a steady voice, his gaze faintly toward the door. Xiao Niao's fingerprints weren't recorded. Room 302 had only Bai Lion's and his fingerprints. "I have half a month off in January." Jiang Yinghui reached out, brushing the hair that fell on her neck behind her ear. "Let's go to the Snow Mountains. There's an ancient site there, too." "Taking such a long break," Bai Lion looked at him. "Aren't you researching dark matter anymore?" "There's no rush," Jiang Yinghui chuckled, looking down at the chins still on the ground. "Why are you so late in the music room today?" He recalled Bai Lion's schedule. Yan Lu was in Baikeng preparing for a new play, and there was no intention to release new music. "I wanted to try composing for a stage play," Bai Lion replied to him. Jiang Yinghui thought for a moment about Gao Shu and narrowed his eyes slightly. Monday, early morning. Mu Yining got up early. She lived in an outside house and only steamed some breakfast with Dong Xiaobai. Dong Xiaobai set down the milk for her, and the two discussed the matters of Saturday. "How many distinguished guests?" "Not many." Mu Yining sat beside him, took a sip of milk, and then spoke. "The Gao family won't come, but Elder Chen and President Su will arrive on time, along with my business partners." That was almost enough. Mu Yining's partners were also among the top circles in Jiangjing. It wasn't as grand as Elder Su's birthday celebration, but there were still many who were eager to get in. "These crab roe buns are really good. Dong Chuan and Wang Xuan will go together," Dong Xiaobai said. Dong Chuan, Dong Xiaobai's nephew, his mother a member of the Jiang family, was already set to be the heir of the next generation of the Dong family. His standing in the Dong family was significant. Otherwise, Dong Xiaobai wouldn't have accompanied Ren Wangshuan on her last visit to the Dong family. Hearing this, Mu Yining straightened up. "He's coming?" Dong Chuan didn't usually mix in these circles and had a higher status than other Dong family members. Being so distinguished, he shouldn't be interested in the affairs of the Mu family's side branches. Why would he come? Wangshuan requested it. Dong Xiaobai held his chopsticks. "She's returning to the clan and asked Dong Chuan to accompany her just to make an appearance." "This Ren Wangshuan, she really has good luck," Mu Yining exclaimed. With Dong Chuan showing up, even the main Mu family lineage wouldn't dare to speak ill of Ren Wangshuan. "If Dong Chuan is coming, we need to notify the butler. After all, he is no ordinary person." Dong Chuan was influenced by his mother. His last relationship was with a girl of artistic temperament. Dong Xiaobai spoke, then suddenly remembered something. "Isn't Wangshuan supposed to transfer her household registration this Wednesday?" Lao Yi steps out of the Buddha Hall, 2 watches combined, 4 together with Mu Lan. Mu Yining also picked up a crab roe bun with her chopsticks. Taking a bite, the juice burst forth. The crab roe was fresh and delicate, the crab meat tender, and the soup profoundly rich. Even for Mu Yining, who had tasted so many delicacies, this was a particularly dazzling experience. The last time Mu Yaojun visited the Mu family, she began to disdain the crabs they ate during this season. Every year, Jiangjing could only provide so much to this elite circle. In recent years, the Mu family actually hadn't gotten their share of the food or dim sum, while the Gao family, with mountains at their back, still managed to get some. After Mu Yaojun brought them over, Mu Yining only saved one for the old master and sent one to Jai Heng. Now, tasting this crab roe bun, she was also quite surprised. Such quality in a crab roe bun was rare even in her childhood, during the Mu family's golden age. After breakfast, the housekeeping aunt cleaned up. Mu Yining got into the car and called the floor butler to inquire about the source of the crab roe buns. Learning that it was sent by Jai Heng, Mu Yining was very surprised. The Jai family was becoming more and more mysterious to her. Wednesday. Bai Lion was still in the dining hall eating when she received a call from Su En. "Alien, good morning." Driving, Su En sounded cheerful. After exchanging pleasantries with Bai Lion, he went on to tell her about Jai Mulan's request to transfer her household registration. Su Siki was registered under the Su family, and the Su family matriarch wouldn't allow him to transfer it. But Su En still decided to inform Bai Lion about the important matter of transferring registration. I got it," Bai Lion said after swiping her card, picked up her breakfast, and handed the card to Tang Ming standing beside her. Tang Ming, with utmost respect, received Bai Lion's card with both hands, not daring to let his gaze linger on the 3 characters, Jiang Fulai, printed on it for too long. Ding Wenyang had perfectly integrated into their group. As long as Bai Lion was at school, they would all flock to dine with her. Seeing Tang Ming showing such reverence for a card, he was somewhat puzzled. "Brother Tang, you're a contestant with 2 million points now." One of the top students of the elite Tengfeng class at Jiang University was showing undue respect to a card. "Brother Ding, you don't understand." Tang Ming thought back to Monday morning when the young master Jiang heard about his points and gave him a HMPH expression. He said gravely. Tang Ming swiped the meal card. Ding Wenyang stared at the balance on the meal card, exclaimed, then realized, of course, it made sense to show utmost respect to the god of wealth. After getting their food, the two sat down opposite Bai Lion and Yang Lin. The food at Jiang University's dining hall was indeed famously delicious. Many food bloggers had become popular by featuring the delicacies of Jiang University online. Tang Ming silently nibbled on his bun. "I'll bring something even tastier for you next week." At the Jiangjing Public Security Bureau, Su En parked his car. He saw the waiting floor butler at the entrance. "Mr. Su, Miss Mulan." The floor butler smiled as he introduced the people beside him. "This is Miss Wangshuan, and this young master is Dong Chuan." Both parties had heard of each other before. Dong Chuan stood tall, wearing a windbreaker, his eyebrows and eyes slightly deep. "Mr. Su." "Young Master Dong." Su En had heard Mu Yining speak of Dong Chuan. Not only was he the heir to the Dong family, but his mother's family was also formidable. Su En was very polite. Jai Mulan had recuperated for 2 months, and her health had mostly recovered. However, today she wasn't wearing high heels, only a goose yellow coat with a hat perched on her head, regal and dignified. Her gaze swept past Ren Wangshuan and settled on Dong Chuan, addressing him with equal courtesy. "Young Master Dong." Lao Yi steps out of the Buddha hall, 2 watches combined, 5 Miss Bai. The butler mentioned Bai Lion. His eyes and brows also softened considerably. "She doesn't intend to move her household registration here." "I see." Ren Wangshuan lost interest at that. Bai Lion not moving her household registration was actually good news for her. Beside her, Dong Chuan had been keeping her company. Hearing her mention Bai Lion, he didn't ask further. He knew that the Mu family had a few more relatives, but apart from Wangshuan, he didn't pay them much attention. Inside the car not far away, Jai Mulan was looking at the rear-view mirror. "The boyfriend she found seems quite decent. I heard his mother's family has no simple connections." One could tell. Even the butler treated Dong Chuan with great respect. "Not bad." Su En started the car and assessed seriously, but suddenly he thought of Jiang Fulai. In terms of presence, all these years, he hadn't seen anyone whose aura could match that of young Master Jiang. Baikang. After being busy for a few days, Gao Shu finally managed to take out 2 days to visit Teacher Zia in Baikang. Secretary Zhu had already contacted Teacher Zia's current address. Hearing this address, Gao Shu was very surprised. Time Entertainment. Teacher Zia used to compose for traditional operas and big movies, leaving behind many famous compositions. Later, he composed for national orchestras and had not composed for a long time. This kind of artist had nothing to do with the entertainment-focused entertainment industry. Why would he be at Time Entertainment? Gao Shu was puzzled as her car drove up to Time Entertainment. The deputy director of the Jiangjing National Theater learned that she was coming over. Even the president of Time Entertainment was alerted, and the high-level executives were all standing outside Time Entertainment's entrance to receive Gao Shu. The welcome was a bit too grand. There was no other way to find Teacher Zia in such a short time. Secretary Zhu could only resort to a simple and crude method and unavoidably alarmed these people. Bai Keng was a bit warmer. Gao Shu got out of the car wearing just a simple trench coat. Director Gao, the president of Time Entertainment, respectfully led Gao Shu to the president's private elevator. Teacher Zia is training Yan Lu to sing. On the 29th floor, I'll take you to the resting room. Yan Lu. Gao Shu had an impression. She had also seen Great Yang. In the resting room, Teacher Zia entered with a roll of sheet music. Director Gao, since you've come personally, I won't beat around the bush. I've grown old and lost my passion for composing. I've also seen blossoms on the tree, but there's someone I want to recommend to you. After much consideration, I think only she is the most suitable. Who? Gao Shu quickly stood up. Teacher Zia tapped on the sheet music side. The composer of Gambling with Liquor by Jian. This song, Gao Shu had also looped it many times, but she wasn't familiar with the entertainment industry and had no idea about the sensation by Jian the composer had caused online. If it's a composer you admire, then where is this master right now? I don't know. Teacher Zia was very straightforward. For a year now, no paparazzi in the entertainment industry have been able to dig her out. Inside and outside the circle, do you know how many people want to have her compose for them but have no way to reach her? She only favors Yan Lu, composing for Yan Lu. Perhaps letting Yan Lu sing the theme song for you might give you a slim chance. It's unrealistic to find her. Teacher Zia finally looked at Gao Shu and suggested, let my disciple compose for you. He can also deliver a work that will stand out. Gao Shu understood it was indeed difficult. Even an artist like Teacher Zia had to go through coaching Yan Lu to sing in order to contact that Bai Jian. She definitely isn't short on money. On the road, Secretary Zhu analyzed for Gao Shu. She also has substantial backing. I'll try my best to collect information about Teacher Bai for you. After Secretary Zhu returned to Jiangjing, he utilized quite a few connections to gather information on that online sensation. Saturday, early morning. The Mu family's home was brightly decorated. The butler could see the red lanterns hanging from the treetops all along the way. The Mu family hadn't been this lively for 20 years. Leaning on his cane, he made his way to the old master's courtyard, crossed the crossroads, lifted the door curtain, and waited outside the small Buddha hall. Old master. Inside, the sound of the wooden fish continued. Mu Xiangguang's voice was calm. Is today the day they return to the ancestral hall? He stayed out of sight in the Buddha hall but still remembered today. The butler bowed respectfully. Yes, we have many guests today. Miss Wangshuan is also bringing young Master Dong Chuan. Inside, there was only a hum. The sound of the wooden fish did not stop. Also, the butler's eyes and brows drooped. The young lady asked me to inform you that today, Miss Bai will also come. Miss Bai Lion. Mu Yining had mentioned her countless times to him, the top college entrance exam scorer who swept over Jiang University this year. The wooden fish sound stopped. It was 3 minutes later when Mu Xiangguang's voice came out. Bring in my coat. Part 1, by the end of October, the weather had become colder again. The Gao family. Today, Mu Yaojun had not originally planned to go to the Mu family. It wasn't until she heard that Mu Xiangguang had come out of the Buddhist hall that she made a slight effort to dress up. Are you and Jiachen going? She asked as she put on a newly tailored outfit and draped a string of jade beads around her neck. Gao Ye picked up his coat. Today I'm taking Jiachen to the theater. Next to him, Gao Ye's assistant glanced at Mu Yaojun. That glance made Mu Yaojun feel momentarily embarrassed. Once, the Mu family could discuss matters on equal terms with the Gao family, but later the Mu family gradually faded from this circle, and the Gao family became somewhat disdainful of Mu Yaojun's status. Think about the women of the Gao family. One married into the Jiang family, another a distant relative married Su Jueling. Yet Gao Yi married Mu Yaojun. If it weren't for the fact that she had given birth to Gao Jiachen, she might have separated from Gao Yi years earlier. The Mu family's business car arrived at Shanghai apartment early in the morning. Assistant Wang drove, with Zioji in the passenger seat, driving into building number 5 of Shanghai apartment. Passing by the security guard standing at attention, Xiaoji couldn't help but take a second look. "What's up?" asked Assistant Wang. Xiaoji spoke. "That security guard looks like he's from a special training camp." Assistant Wang wasn't very familiar with such matters, so he didn't ask any further. In building No. 5, Guzheng had already come out and handed a plain moose green cloak to Tang Ming, asking him to take it up to Bai Lion. "Only you?" Xiaoji got out of the car with Assistant Wang and opened the door. "Yes." Guzheng held a cigarette holder, his eyes drooping. "They still have books to review. We'll just go for a meal, not participate in the ceremony, and arrive later." Xiaoji thought of Bai Lion's group of friends. Whether from Jiang University or Media University, they were indeed all diligent in their studies. Upstairs, Tang Ming handed the cloak to Bai Lion and then went to the 5th floor to find Ning Xiao. "Has the scholar arrived?" he shouted immediately after exiting the elevator. With no one else around, he treated it like his own home. Ning Xiao's door was open as he was still on a call. On the other end of the phone, Wang Yufeng spoke calmly. "What's the rush? I'm already in Jianjing. What time will you arrive? I'll have someone take it to the main entrance." Tang Ming and Ning Xiao had always been looked after by Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing. When Wang Yufeng found out about today's event, he sent a gift to Jianjing through a contact. 11 o'clock. This was the time Jiang Fulai had mentioned, and it was unlikely to be wrong. Tang Ming, curious after seeing him hang up, asked, "What gift did your uncle prepare for Uncle Jai?" To give Ning Xiao a gift was to give a whole apartment. In Tang Ming's memory, only Jiang Fulai spent money without batting an eye. Ning Xiao, however, had no idea what the gift was. Just after 10 o'clock, the Mu family. Ancient and quaint door towers were adorned with festive red lanterns. The floor butler, walking with a cane, had especially put on a festive long robe today to receive Mu Yaojun. Her arrival immediately drew the attention of the Mu family members. They all knew she was now the lady of the Gao family, and her son Gao Jiachin had a promising future. The clan leader of the Mu family and others formed a line to chat with her. After seeing Mu Yaojun, the floor butler spoke. "Mr. Shaojun has already arrived at the ancestral hall. Elders and uncles, shall we move to the ancestral hall?" Today's event was organized by Mu Yining. Most of those from the ancestral hall would give her face. Originally, the clan leader was Mu Xiangguang, who 20 years ago had passed his position to a distant relative of the clan, with both Mu's second uncle and third uncle being from a side branch. Jai Shaojun's return had also injected new vitality into the Mu family. "I heard Dong Chuan is coming today." Mu Yaojun had been sitting, sipping tea with downcast eyes, not getting up. The butler of the Gao family stood behind her, without uttering an extra word. She had inquired about Jai Shaojun before coming back. For decades in Xiancheng, he had been an art teacher. Although since his return his methods were quite like the decisive actions characteristic of the Mu family, his return also disturbed the interests of some. "He's coming with Miss Ren." The floor butler thought it over for a moment. Among those coming today, only Chief Chen and Dong Chuan could cause her to move. The mother of Dong Chuan was from the Jiang family, not the core descendants, but as long as one bore that surname, it carried weight. "Well, no rush for the ancestral hall." Mu Yaojun put down her teacup. "I'll wait here for young Master Dong to arrive." The floor butler looked up, seeming to want to say something more to Mu Yaojun, but at that moment his phone rang. He checked, and it was a message that Bai Lion was about to arrive. Without saying more to Mu Yaojun, he seemed to become 10 years younger at once, haste in his step as he hurried out with his cane. "Miss Bai has arrived. I'll go welcome her first." Part 2, at this time, even Mu Yaojun was not concerned. Mu Yaojun rarely paid attention to the affairs of the Mu family, and this was the first time she heard of Miss Bai. With just a glance, someone explained to her. There wasn't much information about Bai Lion in the Mu family, and it was generally difficult for others to access her records. Butler Lu rarely mentions her, but it seems she is quite talented, and now she is at Jiangjing University, the old patriarch said with a chuckle. Speaking of talent, Butler Gao glanced at the old patriarch. The old patriarch also chuckled in reflection. Look at what I'm saying, in front of Dr. Gao, what talents should I mention? No matter how good the talents, they couldn't compare to the son of Mu Yaojun, Gao. Mu Yaojun slowly pushed aside the tea foam without denying it. The old patriarch went with those granduncles from the Mu family to the ancestral temple to prepare the ritual for Jai Sheijun. Butler Gao, with his head lowered, asked Mu Yaojun, "Do you want to meet that Miss Bai?" "Wait for Dong Chuan," Mu Yaojun said indifferently. Among the people who came to the Mu family today, Dong Chuan was the only one she would consider meeting. She didn't care about the others. The Mu family's residence was vast. Butler Lu went around the side rooms and long corridors, and it took 5 minutes before he saw several people at the entrance of the main courtyard. Next to them were Ning Xiao, Tang Ming, and Pu Ziohen. Yang Lin had a part-time job in the morning and had to help in the laboratory in the afternoon, so she didn't come. In the center stood a girl wearing a moss-green cloak, her slender figure slightly leaning against the edge of the pool's railing, her arm resting on the cast railing, revealing the snow-white sleeve beneath her cloak as she talked to the man beside her. The man wore a very simple trench coat. He had a tall figure and was slightly tilting his head. You could see his ice-gold jawline and the half of his face that was extremely stern. At 11 o'clock, the sunlight was just right above. The light wasn't glaring even in winter, but as Butler Lu looked at that stern profile, he felt quite dazed. He stopped in his tracks. As part of the Mu family, he was aware of the few people from the Jiang family. He hadn't officially met Jiang Fulai more than twice and hadn't spoken to him, but he knew of his existence. A person who led the Jiang family to rise from the same circumstances as the Mu family not only stabilized the precarious situation of the Jiang family, but also helped it thrive. He was involved in both politics, business, and the scientific community. Butler Lu stood in place without speaking. When Tang Ming turned his head and saw him, he hurriedly greeted him. "Butler Lu, are you here to find Sister Lion?" "Ah," Butler Lu came back to his senses. Yes. He turned his gaze to Bai Lion, not daring to look at Jiang Fulai again. "Miss Bai, I will take you to see Mr. Jai. He's talking with the master." Mu Xiangguang was in the main courtyard. Crossing over would lead to a cobblestone path, and just lifting the door curtain would allow them to see him. He didn't see anyone else. Butler Lu left Ning Xiao and Tang Ming outside at a small table, serving them tea and refreshments. There was also one more person. His gaze fell on Jiang Fulai. Jiang Fulai casually sat down, his long and cold white fingers picking up a cup of tea, absent-mindedly blowing on it, his demeanor elegant and posh, showing no intention of going in with Bai Lion. When he looked up again towards Bai Lion, he asked, "Do you want to give me the cloak?" There was heating inside the house, and the cloak made by Jai Heng was very warm. Bai Lion untied her cloak and handed it to him, then flipped open the door curtain and entered the main room. Inside the house, Mu Xiangguang was talking with Jai Heng. He was 2 years younger than Jai Heng, his hair completely gray, his figure lean, the cheekbones on both sides protruding, and the wrinkles on his face were evident. "I know about Mu Qiang's matter," Jai Heng said, sitting close to him, slowly smoking, "but I didn't expect you to be so disheartened." There weren't many people in the direct lineage, and Jai Heng and Mu Xiangguang had a good relationship since childhood without any disputes. Mu Xiangguang held a string of Buddha beads in his hands, his eyes closed, turning them slowly. "Life is unpredictable. I had Yining looking for you for many years, and it was only last year that suddenly there was news." The vast fortune of the Mu family, the share meant for Jai Heng, had always been untouched by him. However, the Mu family had been unable to locate the news about Jai Heng until last year when he came to Jiangjing. It was only then that Butler Lu, following the trail, managed to get a bit of information. Regarding these matters, Jai Heng offered no explanations. As the two talked, the door curtain was lifted, and Butler Lu said softly, "Miss Bai has arrived." Mu Xiangguang stopped turning the Buddha beads in his hand and opened his eyes. The lighting inside the room was dim, but Mu Xiangguang still managed to make out the figure who walked in. The visitor was dressed all in white, with an erect spine, walking unhurriedly as if she had severed the bonds with a century of time. That kind of demeanor, Mu Xiangguang was somewhat stunned. "Grandfather," Bai Lion approached and greeted Jai Heng. Heng knocked his pipe, shaking out the ash, and introduced casually, "This is your second grandfather." Bai Lion looked towards Mu Xiangguang and spoke with composure. "Second grandpa." Mu Xiangguang came back to his senses. He was usually a man of few words, but upon seeing Bai Lion, he couldn't help but ask a few more questions. "Sit down. I heard from your grandfather that you're in the Tengfeng class." In fact, Mu Xiangguang had already heard these pieces of information many times from the Mu family butler and Mu Yining. Having grown up in Xiangcheng without elite education and still achieving greater success than the Liang family's descendants, Mu Xiangguang felt that perhaps without his intervention, these young people could have gone even further. "That's right." Bai Lion sat next to Jai Heng, calmly replying. Despite being out of management for many years, Mu Xiangguang still had a keen eye. Such a demeanor even Mu Yining couldn't match. He took out a wooden box from the side and pushed it in front of Bai Lion. "Since you call me second grandpa, I don't have much for a meeting gift. Let this be my present to you." Bai Lion looked at the ebony box but didn't immediately reach for it. Instead, she looked toward Jai Heng. Jai Heng blew out a ring of smoke. "Take it." Okay, Bai Lion accepted it. 11:30. Mu Yaojun, along with Dong Chuan and Ren Wangshuan, went to the clan ancestral hall. The entire registration ceremony wasn't long. Firecrackers and fireworks exploded outside. Mu Yaojun, considering Dong Chuan's face, stayed a little longer. Once the ritual was complete, the guests started to take their seats. The guests exchanged pleasantries with the three of them, and Mu Yining did not expect that Mu Yaojun would still be there. She introduced Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing to her. "Sister, this is Shaojun, and this is his wife, Shen Qing. Shaojun and I will go outside to greet others. You can sit down and have some tea first." Mu Yaojun's gaze swept past Shen Qing, who was always intimidated by such imposing figures, and gave Mu Yaojun a somewhat ingratiating smile. "Congratulations." Mu Yaojun didn't look at Shen Qing, curtly saying the words and covering her nose with a handkerchief. With Mu Yining and Jai Shaojun gone, only Su En, Shen Qing, and Jai Mulin were left. Why would Mu Yaojun demean herself by wasting time chatting with them? She coolly withdrew her gaze and turned to speak to someone else. "Little Dong, Wangshuan." She addressed Ren Wangshuan quite intimately today, and Ren Wangshuan was pleasantly taken aback by the honor. But Ren Wangshuan also knew it was because of Dong Chuan's influence. Today, no fewer than 10 people had greeted her, all clan chiefs and estate managers. For a while, Ren Wangshuan's table was extraordinarily lively. Dong Chuan and Mu Yaojun were the popular figures of the day. "Do you want to join your aunt for a while?" Dong Chuan asked, looking down at Ren Wangshuan. Ren Wangshuan, seeing the situation clearly and catching a glimpse of Jai Heng and Jai Shaojun's group from the corner of her eye, didn't go over to greet them and just stayed at her own table. She didn't have a particularly good relationship with Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing, especially Shen Qing. Having been in Jiangjing for so long, she had barely interacted with Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing, and Jai Shaojun never included her in various social gatherings. Ren Wangshuan wasn't without her grievances over this. "No need." Ren Wangshuan looked down and sat at her table with Dong Chuan. Dong Chuan didn't pay much attention to Jai Shaojun's group either. Shen Qing and Jai Mulin didn't seem like they came from prominent families, and he noticed that Mu Yaojun didn't want to have much contact with that group either, so he didn't purposely get close. "Mrs. Gao, I've heard that Dr. Gao." He conversed with Mu Yaojun, bringing up Gao Jiachin. For a moment, the distinction was as clear as day. The Mu clan leader exchanged glances with the other clan elders, knowing they inevitably had to neglect one family in favor of the other. Although Jai Shaojun had inherited part of the estate, everyone accompanying the Mu clan leader knew Jai Shaojun hailed from Xiangcheng, with a wife of humble origins and little backing. On Ren Wangshuan's side, setting aside Dong Chuan, just the presence of Mu Yaojun was a rarity for them. There was no real choice to be made, and without thinking, everyone knew whom to greet first. In an instant, most people approached to curry favor. The Mu clan leader went over to congratulate Ren Wangshuan with an excellent start, Wangshuan, I've heard you have a good hand at Liang's script, truly accomplished for your age. Liang's script? Mu Yaojun took a longer glance at Ren Wangshuan. Find a chance, and I'll take you to meet Old Master Chen. Old Master Chen. Who is that? Ren Wangshuan's heart raced, and before the meal even started, she stood up with her teacup to thank Mu Yaojun. Thank you so much. Their table was surrounded by layers of people on the inside and out, bustling with activity, which made Shen Qing's side seem extremely quiet in contrast, with only 2 of Mu Yining's business partners speaking to them, and not all seats were filled. That's Dong Chuan and also Dr. Gao's mother. A young member of the Mu family whispered to Mu Zhao, Aren't you going over there? Mu Zhao shook his head. I'm taking care of Mr. Su and the others. He stood behind Mr. Su and Shen Qing, asking if they needed anything. All right, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The young member of the Mu family shrugged. Then I'll be going over there. I wonder how good Ren Wangshuan's writing really is. I'll go add her on WeChat first. Maybe I can even add Dong Chuan. Outside, Mu Yining accompanied Jai Shaojun to receive guests. Other than Old Master Chen, are there 2 other business partners who haven't arrived? From the Little Grape Foundation. Jai Shaojun was at the entrance speaking when 3 people came in from outside. He approached them, greeting Director Chen first, before introducing the remaining 2. Chairman Feng, President Liao, this is my sister. The private fund managed by Su En was left to Jai Shaojun. Unaware of the details, it was just a private fund for Mu Yining, who simply funded it as a form of participation. But she was shocked to see the 2 who arrived. Chairman Feng, Dean of Jiang University's School of Finance and President of the Jiangjing Business Federation. President Liao, President of the Jiangjing Business Association and a member of the Business Federation, also a graduate of Jiang University and Chairman Feng's right-hand man. Both were at the very pinnacle of the business community pyramid. Mu Yining had thought that Director Chen's attendance at today's ceremony was already an icing on the cake, but the private fund that she hadn't paid much attention to managed to attract these top-tier guests. The Mu family hadn't been this lively in a long time. Mu Yining was truly astonished. On her phone, the butler instructed her to wait outside a little longer as Bai Lion and Jai Heng were arriving soon. It was a bit unexpected that the butler informed her so early in advance. Regaining her composure, Mu Yining asked Jai Shaojun to usher the distinguished guests inside first and waited at the entrance. Shaojun, you go ahead and attend to the 3 guests. The butler told me to wait here for my uncle. After the guests had gone in, Assistant Wang stood by Mu Yining's side, surprised. Dean Feng is here, too. What kind of private investment is Mr. Su involved in? Send me information about the investment later. Intuition told Mu Yining that this investment was anything but ordinary. As they were speaking, a group of people could be seen walking leisurely in the distance. Yining caught sight of Jai Heng walking ahead, a long smoking pipe in hand, with Tang Ming by his side. Mu Xiangguang hadn't come, which Mu Yining had expected. As the cold wind blew, they could hear Tang Ming's cheerful voice. Grandpa, look, that duck can fly. Jai Heng looked up and smiled as he took a puff of smoke. That's a spotted goose. The Mu family's estate was located in a garden area where many protected wild birds would take refuge, and Jai Heng recognized at first glance what bird it was. Next to him, the butler followed on Jai Heng's left, uncharacteristically silent. Mu Yining was somewhat astonished at the butler's neglect and straightened her clothes before approaching Jai Heng. Uncle, you're here. When she looked up, she finally saw Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai, who were lagging behind. Bai Lion was wrapped in a green cloak, holding a box made of ebony in her left hand, tapping it leisurely as she chatted idly with the person beside her. In the sunlight, the white jade hairpin on her head seemed to glow with blue radiance. Are you going to have dinner with my aunt tonight? Jiang Fulai, hands in his coat pockets and eyes downcast in exquisite sorrow, was evidently frustrated. When did you 2 become so close? They were planning to have dinner together, and he was the last to know. Jai Heng stopped and greeted Mu Yining, then said to Jiang Fulai, Zio Jiang, this is Yining. Jiang Fulai lifted his gaze and nodded to Mu Yining, his tone noble yet aloof. Hello. After the greeting, he continued discussing with Bai Lion why they were going out to eat and how he had no clue about it. With his usual demeanor of being too lazy to converse with others, Bai Lion thought that even Gao Shu wouldn't dare to bother him with such trivialities. "No more words, young Master Jiang." Bai Lion busied him, placing the ebony box in his hands. "Hold this for me." Jiang Feilai glanced down at her, and taking the box from her, didn't ask further. Jai Heng, still holding his smoking pipe, saw Mu Yining standing still. "Aren't you going in?" As he spoke, Jiang Feilai also glanced over, his gaze faintly landing on Mu Yining. Mu Yining, having encountered a variety of personalities within the circle, used to see Chen family's elder regularly in earlier years. Yet now, confronted by Jiang Feilai's gaze, she felt a chill down her spine. "Uncle, please go ahead." Jai Heng walked inside, and Mu Yining followed a few steps behind, staying close to Bai Lion and the others. "Young Master Jiang, I didn't expect you to come." Jiang Feilai, the legitimate son of the Jiang family. Rarely appearing in public, even Chen family's elder would rise to greet him. How could Mu Yining not know him? "I came with Grandfather Jai," Jiang Feilai, holding the ebony box and following Bai Lion, replied indifferently. "You don't need to mind me." His words revealed so much. Today's Jiang Feilai didn't come as a representative of the Jiang family, but with the Jai family. Mu Yining looked at Bai Lion beside him, her heart tense as she finally understood why the butler informed her so much in advance to stand outside. Otherwise, if the butler had simply stated, "The eldest young master of the Jiang family has also arrived," Mu Yining would have definitely not believed it. She followed behind the group, looking at the silent butler, and let out a breath of murky air. "They, the two of them." The butler nodded towards Mu Yining. "The ancestral hall." Knowing that Jai Shaojun had gone to meet with collaborative partners, the Mu clan's leader and his entourage didn't pay much attention, simply chatted and laughed with Dong Chuan and Mu Yaojun, until Jai Shaojun arrived with the three individuals. The person in the middle, Director Chen, was seldom seen smiling. After becoming the head of Ning Xiao district, his authoritative presence had grown even more evident. Ren Wangshuan, who had seen Director Chen before, recognized the man she had met in Xiangcheng instantly, setting down her teacup. "Chen! Mr. Chen." The surname Chen indeed attracted attention. The Mu clan leader and Dong Chuan quickly turned their gaze, and Dong Chuan didn't hesitate to put down his teacup and rise from his seat, both surprised and respectful. "Mr. Chen." Dong family's eldest young master, with close ties to the Jiang family, naturally recognized Chen Yongkun. Besides, who wasn't aware by now who had single-handedly promoted Chen Yongkun? Hearing Dong Chuan's voice, Mu Yaojun looked up, aware that the Chen family had little contact with the Gao family, but she knew this rising star, Mr. Chen, was on good terms with Jiang Feilai. In the past 2 months, Gao Yi had tried to meet with Chen Yongkun more than once, and lately in Jiangjing, many sought to ingratiate themselves with Chen Yongkun, with no shortage of gifts sent from many within the Jiang family. But Chen Yongkun was an enigma, accepting no gifts and living a reclusive life, skillfully handling affairs without getting involved. These individuals found it difficult to establish connections with Chen Yongkun. Mu Yaojun was extremely surprised to encounter Chen Yongkun here, a truly unexpected delight. She set down her teacup and stood up, very polite. "Mr. Chen, what brings you here? We've met before at the Su families." Behind her, the high-ranking Gao family butler, who had barely interacted with the Mu family, looked up, surprised to find that the present Mu Yining had such connections that she had invited Chen Yongkun. He greeted Director Chen respectfully. A crowd had gathered around Ren Wangshuan, both inside and out, several layers deep. Director Chen's gaze fell on Mu Yaojun's group, while in the corner of his eye, he saw Shen Qing's side looking deserted, with only Mu Zhao attending to the guests. They were all people of the world, and at a glance, it was evident what was going on. Not to mention he wasn't familiar with Mu Yaojun, knowing that Jiang Feilai didn't like the Gao family. Even if he had been familiar with them, after today, he would start acting unfamiliar. As for Dong Chuan, he didn't know him and therefore didn't greet him. Then he walked briskly with Dean Feng towards Shen Qing and Su En, stopping in front of them, warmly greeting Shen Qing. "Sister-in-law, You've arrived quite early." At the table, Shen Qing was only familiar with Su En, and Jai Mulan didn't pay her much attention either. Although Su En was looking out for her feelings, he was unable to attend to her fully due to the presence of two other business partners, and Shen Qing found herself at a loss for words. Sitting in the spacious hall, surrounded by the powerful elite, she felt very uncomfortable. Fortunately, Mu Zhao, who was sitting beside her, often spoke to her, which prevented her from feeling too constrained. Now that Director Chen and Jai Shaojun had arrived, Shen Qing breathed a sigh of relief and stood up. "Xiaochen, you've come so late." Director Chen smiled. "I had some matters to deal with and arrived late. I'll start by drinking 3 penalty cups." Su En stood up. He was familiar with Director Chen and dispensed with the formalities, greeting the other two. "Dean Feng, Chairman Liao." This side was filled with joyful laughter and chatter. By greeting Shen Qing like this, Director Chen had done his duty for appearance's sake. On the other side, the group with Mu Yaojun and Dong Chuan quieted down. When the head of the Mu clan found out who Director Chen was and learned the identities of Dean Feng and the others, he, too, grew restless. He wanted to go over, but having not greeted Shen Qing and the others earlier, he couldn't find a good reason to do so now. A sense of regret welled up inside him. Who could have known that Shen Qing and Jai Shaojun, having returned to the Mu family for so long and always acting low-key, would know people of such stature? Even the Gao family's butler could not help but bow his head and ask Mu Yaojun in a low voice, "Madam, is the Mu family so close with Director Chen?" Mu Yaojun's mind was in disarray. How could she know that Shen Qing, a woman whom she thought she could see right through, would actually know Chen Yongkun, and be on familiar terms with Chen Yongkun? Dong Chuan, seeing Director Chen seat himself next to Shen Qing, couldn't help but look at Ren Wangshuan, asking, "Wangshuan, should we not go over and greet your uncle and auntie?" Ren Wangshuan looked up but didn't get a chance to respond to Dong Chuan. At the entrance, Assistant Wang led Jai Heng and others in. Jai Heng wore a gray robe, carrying a long smoking pipe, his hands clasped behind his back, while the usually chattering Tang Ming, seeing the crowded hall, also stopped. Most people did not recognize Jai Heng. Behind them followed Pu Ziohan and Ning Xiao, with Ning Xiao holding a gift box, always gloomy and not prone to speaking with others. Jiang Fulai, holding by Lion's sandalwood box, walked with a lazy look in his eyes and followed her steps, unhurriedly. He seemed quite relaxed today, tall and handsome with a detached expression. However, as soon as they entered the hall, starting from the entrance, the boisterous, interacting crowd, centered around Bai Lion and the others, began to quiet down, radiating outwards. Director Chen, who was talking with Su En and the others, sensitively picked up on this disturbance. He looked towards the entrance and quickly stood up. Dean Feng also felt something odd, followed his gaze, and immediately recognized the 2 striking figures among the crowd. He coughed and quickly put down his teacup to stand up. When he stood up, Liao Guangshuan, who had not seen Jiang Fulai before, also stood. Everyone at the table stood up, and Mu Yaojun and Dong Chuan, who were paying attention to their side, also looked towards the entrance. Who was this arriving? They immediately spotted Jiang Fulai. Dong Chuan's face, which had always been calm, changed. He stopped talking to Ren Wangshuan and abruptly stood up. His composure had always been dependable, even when facing Mu Yaojun, one of the highest status individuals Ren Wangshuan had ever encountered. Dong Chuan's sudden serious expression surprised Ren Wangshuan. Mu Yaojun and the senior butler stood frozen in place, looking towards the entrance, struggling to grasp the situation. The line of people slowly approached. At Director Chen's table, the usually talkative Dean Feng and Chairman Liao didn't dare to speak, but Director Chen, accustomed to such situations, was the first to break the silence. "Uncle Jai, Miss Bai, young Master Jiang." Dean Feng, not recognizing Jai Heng, smiled. "Miss Bai, young Master Jiang." Bai Lion nodded to him in acknowledgement. In the silence, Jiang Fulai casually yet politely greeted Jai Shaojun. "Uncle Jai." This greeting of Uncle Jai undoubtedly dropped a bombshell among everyone present. Jiachin observed the atmosphere of the entire hall. He glanced at Jiang Fulai in surprise, but didn't say much, just asked them to sit down first. Earlier, Jai Heng had spoken to the butler, asking him to arrange a separate table for them. But Jai Heng was of a higher seniority, and the Mu family cared about these things. So the butler placed their table to the left of Jai Shaojun's, side by side, at a distance where they could speak to the adjacent table just by turning around. Jiang Fulai greeted Jai Shaojun, his gaze then falling onto the others at the dining table, his black windbreaker accentuating the aloofness of his eyes and brow. The dean and the president of the Federation, as well as various major business partners, began to avert their gazes. Shen Qing had breathed a sigh of relief when Jai Shaojun had arrived earlier. Now that Bai Lion had arrived, Shen Qing relaxed even more, while Tang Ming chatted cheerfully about the spotted goose with her. Their table was the only one in the entire quiet hall where the atmosphere was relaxed. Jai Heng and Jiang Fulai sat next to Shen Qing and Bai Lion one after another. Shen Qing was still talking with Bai Lion. "It's all thanks to Mu Zhao." She introduced Bai Lion to Mu Zhao. Bai Lion thanked Mu Zhao. "Thank you. This is what I should do," he replied nervously. His surprise at seeing Bai Lion was even greater than his surprise at seeing Jiang Fulai. Mu Zhao was a freshman at Jiang University, where by now virtually no new student hadn't heard of Bai Lion. Among the 4 people in his dormitory, the most discussed topics were Bai Lion and Liang Wuyu, especially Bai Lion, one of whom even used a video screenshot as their phone's wallpaper. Students also have their idols, particularly those from the affiliated schools. From junior high to high school, each of them had been overwhelmingly pressured by Liang Wuyu, only for a dark horse to suddenly emerge during the college entrance examination, surpassing Liang Wuyu's score to become first. At the start of school, the Tengfeng class exam results were widely discussed in the forums, with 3 students from Xiangcheng sparking the buzz. In a pure science exam, 1 student scored higher than Liang Wuyu, and 2 scored nearly as well. What more was there to say? This class had already been dubbed Celebrity World by netizens. Mu Zhao was just one among many students who looked up to this group, never expecting one of them to be Shen Qing, another niece of Mu Yining, whom he had heard about from his own relative. He was quite excited in the moment. With Bai Lion seated at the next table, Mu Yining came over and asked Mu Zhao to return to his own seat. Mu Zhao nodded, and before leaving, asked Shen Qing if he could add Bai Lion on WeChat. WeChat? Shen Qing took out her phone and recommended Bai Lion's contact card to Mu Zhao, asking him to keep it off the internet and not pass it to others. "I know, thank you," Mu Zhao said, taking his phone back to his table. As Bai Lion and the others took their seats, fireworks were lit outside, and the silent hall slowly began to buzz with quiet conversation. There weren't many people moving around the venue. A distant uncle from the Mu clan sat on edge at Mu Yaojun's side, constantly asking in a low voice, "Clan leader, when do we go over?" Just moments ago, when they greeted Mu Yaojun and Dong Chuan, it was casual, but now the thought of returning seemed forced. And now, returning to engage in conversation with Jai Shaojun's table seemed questionable. The clan leader was at a loss as well. If they were already regretting their presence after the arrival of the bureau chief and the dean, their regret peaked internally with the arrival of Jiang Fulai. Mu Yaojun stood still for a good while. Jiang Fulai just glanced over coolly from afar, making her feel a chill rising from the soles of her feet. "Butler Gao?" Seeing him at the Mu family residence was bewildering to Mu Yaojun, and she looked dazedly at Butler Gao. Butler Gao, having seen Jiang Fulai more times than Mu Yaojun, also realized, "It's young Master Jiang." Mu Yaojun sat down absent-mindedly, no longer concerned about Dong Chuan or the clan leader, tightly clutching her handkerchief. Why would he be at the Mu family? Jiang Fulai, along with Gao Jiachin and Gao Yi, were figures they hardly ever saw, except for a personal meeting during Elder Su's birthday. He had not been seen in any public venue, but now he had appeared at the clan initiation ceremony for Jai Shaojun and the others, and he called Jai Shaojun Uncle Jai. Chen Yongkun also arrived at the Mu family at this time, everything strange yet traceable. When it was time to eat, Mu Yaojun picked up the wine glass beside her and went to find Jai Heng. As she left, Ren Wongshuan finally caught her breath. She looked towards Dong Chuan, becoming aware that Jiang Fulai's identity might not be ordinary, and looked at Dong Chuan in astonishment. Dong Chuan remained silent, unwilling to elaborate, and only asked her to pick up her glass and head over to Jai Shaojun's table. Wang Xuan quickly took a glass and followed Dong Chuan. At Jai Shaojun's table, Jai Heng and Jiang Fulai were not present, and his own words had always been scarce. Mu Yining had just entered the hall and knew the situation upon seeing Mu Yaojun's area. She glanced at Dong Chuan and Ren Wangxuan, then introduced the people at the table with a light smile. Zaya Achuan, these two here are Director Feng and Chairman Liao, and this is CEO Su. As she introduced them one by one, Dong Chuan finally understood who Director Feng was. He was surprised on the inside, and his demeanor became even more humble. He had initially thought that Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing were just ordinary people. In fact, Jai Heng was indeed born of a concubine and later chose to leave the Mu family voluntarily. He hadn't contacted the Mu family for 40 or 50 years and had only been in Xiangcheng, so Dong Chuan hadn't taken much notice at first. Who knew that this relative would pull such a grand move? Dong Chuan thought to himself that this year, for the Lunar New Year, their elders and mother would personally visit the Mu mansion to pay their respects. Dong Chuan had always held himself with high status and dignity, even when facing Mu Yaojun. This was the first time that Ren Wangxuan saw him lowering himself to such an extent. As for the table behind them, Dong Chuan didn't dare to take another glance. Ren Wangxuan looked back, at Bai Lion's table. Director Chen had left in the middle of his meal to join Jai Heng for a drink, while Su En and Jai Shaojun were discussing business at the table behind. Amidst the clinking of glasses, even Shen Qing was repeatedly toasted. She didn't understand the situation, only hazily joining in the drinking with her beverage. When others toasted, they drank a shot of liquor in one gulp, but with each sip of her drink, no one dared to say a word. Tang Ming and Pu Ziohen were chattering away, with Pu Ziohen leisurely videotaping the process of serving the dishes with her phone. Ren Wangxuan frowned slightly as she observed Pu Ziohen doing this, and her peripheral vision caught Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai beside her, giving her a sudden jolt. She simply could not understand. Whiz kid! Tang Ming still had to go back in the afternoon to check on Zhang Shai's homework. He'd only had a few drinks and suddenly thought of something. When will you give the gift to Uncle Jai? Ning Xiao lowered his head to look at the paper box at his feet. The box was a 50-centimeter wide square, quite large, and with some heft. He didn't yet know what was inside, but knew that Wang Yufeng was not one to joke about this kind of thing. I'll give it to him when we leave. Tang Ming nodded. He wanted to see the gift in advance, but the timing was simply not right. Jai Heng was staying at the Mu mansion for dinner, and Jai Mulan was going to stay there for a few days. Bai Lion and the group of students were all heading back. Mu Yining had been deliberately not focusing on Jiang Fulai, but she stopped Bai Lion. Alien. The Mu mansion has many animals and a lake created by redirecting water. Won't you stay for the night to see the scenery? The scenery of the Mu mansion was indeed rare. Anyone else would surely want to stay for the night, but Bai Lion, who had once lived in the general residence which far surpassed the Mu mansion, had no curiosity about it. No, thank you, Bai Lion said as she lowered her gaze and methodically tied her cloak strings, looping them into a loose knot. All right. Mu Yining had no other options. As Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai were about to leave, a bunch of people from the Mu family saw them out. But the only one who could speak with them was Mu Yining. The Mu clan leader wanted to add a word, but since they had no prior interaction with Jai Shaojun and Shen Qing, they were not close enough to speak. Mu Zhao was indeed familiar with Shen Qing. Bai Lion found Mu Zhao in the crowd and raised her eyebrows. Was it you who sent me the friend request just now? Caught off guard by the direct address, Mu Zhao was quite surprised. Yes, it was me. Bai Lion nodded. On hearing about this connection to Bai Lion, Jiang Fulai, who had already moved aside, also raised his eyes indifferently, giving Mu Zhao a glance. Mu Zhao's back stiffened under the gaze. At the right moment, Ning Xiao handed the paper box to Jai Shaojun, concisely stating, Uncle Jai. Is this for me? Jai Shaojun, who had had a bit to drink and was conversing with Liao Guangxuan, took the square paper box with a smile, thinking it was a small token from a child. Thank you. After receiving it, he felt its few pounds of weight, not heavy, not knowing what was inside. A bunch of people stood at the entrance of the Mew mansion, waiting for the car carrying Bai Lion and the others to drive away. And the breath that had been hanging in everyone's hearts finally dissipated. Ever since Bai Lion and Jiang Fulai had appeared, Mew Yaojun had been much more silent. She walked back a distance with Mew Yining before speaking up. Why didn't you say earlier? I also just found out. Mew Yining shook her head, her expression serious. You can see as well, he's come because of our great-grandfather and others, not directly related to our Mew family. There was another family banquet in the evening, but Mew Yaojun didn't stay, hastily returning to the Gao family.